Chapter 426. In the wilderness, even a man celestial like Mang Yicheng could only run when encountering a level 9 beast tide. It wasn't that he didn't want to save Chen Hao and the others, but he didn't have the ability to do so. Using half of his true essence to condense a protective seal that could last for 4 hours for Chen Hao and the others was already the limit of what he could do. Chi! Mang Yicheng flew at a low altitude like a bolt of lightning. He had to quickly dodge when the beasts arrived. He had no choice. When the beast tide arrived, even he didn't dare to tear the void to fly. This was because the space was unstable at this moment. Not to mention the beasts that were teleported in the chaotic space, even the terrifying lightning could take his life. Beep! Mang Yicheng fled toward the supply station while using the president's authority to connect to the communication hall of the 160th supply station. Beep beep beep. The staff of the 160th supply station had been monitoring the situation of Chen Hao and the others. Even they didn't expect that the beast tide would erupt without any warning. It's the president. Quickly connect. Immediately send a message to the headquarters in Dian City. The beast tide is estimated to be level 9, but it might be level 10 or even higher. Requesting reinforcements. Mang Yicheng's figure appeared on the huge screen as he spoke urgently. Yes. Also, specifically notify Wuji Immortal Palace. Emphasize the situation of the 3 direct disciples of Wuji Immortal Palace in Ao Tianzhong. They can only hold on for less than 4 hours. Also, count all the direct disciples of the major factions who are training in our supply station and notify them together. Yes. This was something that the Supply Station Alliance had to do every time a beast tide broke out. First, it was to attach importance to the genius disciples of the major factions. Second, it was because these genius disciples could make the experts of the major factions come to help as soon as possible. After all, the terror of the beast tide was unimaginable. It was impossible to accurately estimate the level of the beast tide. Once the reinforcements didn't arrive in time, the entire supply station would be crushed into powder by the beast tide army. Wuji Immortal Palace, Cold Plum Hall. Report. A hurried and loud shout suddenly came and interrupted the cultivation of the nameless old man. It was the palace master of Cold Plum Hall, Venerable Immortal Han Mei. Why are you so flustered? Venerable Han Mei frowned. His aura seemed extremely ethereal. Even though he was right in front of Zhang Xian, it was as if he was immersed in another world, giving off an unreal feeling. At this moment, she was the real her. In the past, when she was in the secular world and the eastern continent, she had sealed her cultivation base. Even the mysterious existence in Chen Hao's mind couldn't know her true strength. Firstly, the mysterious existence did not dare to probe. Secondly, even if he probed, he would not be able to find out anything. This was because his perception ability was determined by the improvement of Chen Hao's cultivation and the degree of fusion with him. Even when immortal Venerable Han Mei stripped his memories, old God was wrong. Hall Master, I've just received a message from the communication headquarters of the Immortal Palace. Chen Shui, Jiang Hai, and Huang Wenxiu, the direct disciples of the younger generation of the Immortal Palace, have encountered a beast tide of level 9 or even level 10 in the wilderness of the number 160 supply station of the Great Yan City. You only have 4 hours to obtain the supply station's President Protection Seal. Please make your decision, Hall Master. What? Immortal Venerable Han Mei's expression changed slightly. She was surprised, but she immediately calmed down and said, immediately inform the Deputy Hall Master to arrange for people to gather all the outstanding disciples and creation realm experts of the younger generation to help them. I'll take my leave first. Yes. Chi. Immortal Venerable Han Mei took a step forward. There was a slight fluctuation in the space, and she directly disappeared from the hall. At the same time, the Hall Masters of the Wuji Immortal Palace, Hall Master Yun Wei, and the other Hall Masters who were relatively close to the Great Yan City received the message from the communication headquarters of the Immortal Palace. This was also the news that must be notified every time there was a beast tide. It was convenient for the hall to arrange for the support and training of the disciples. Number 160 Supply Station of the Great Yen City, a beast tide of level 9? The graceful immortal Venerable Yun Wei looked calm when she received the news. However, she immediately thought of something and said inwardly, Chen Hao, that little guy, seems to have entered the Great Yen City. Chen Shui also followed him the day before yesterday. They shouldn't be at the number 160 supply station, right? Immortal Venerable Yun Wei was the female Immortal Venerable who hosted the Eastern Continent's Immortal Dao Sect Exchange competition. She was also the master of Xia Yuyu, Helian Wuzi, and Tan Tai Lian. Regardless, let's go and take a look. Thinking of this, Immortal Venerable Yun Wei looked at the disciple who came to report and said, immediately inform the Vice Hall Master to arrange for the disciples to go and train. Arrange for Helian Wuzi, Xia Yuyu, and Tan Tai Lian to go as well. Yes, Hall Master. The news that Hall Master Yun Wei and the other halls received naturally didn't mention Qin Shui, Jiang Hai, Huang Wenxiu, and the others. However, Fairy Yun Wei favored her three precious disciples. Especially in the past 2 years, their progress could be described as monstrous. The more she looked at them, the more she liked them. Among the three, Helian Wuzi exceeded her imagination. She caught up with Xia Yuyu in terms of cultivation realm, and her combat strength was even higher than Xia Yuyu's. She also found out the reason, and that was the power of reincarnation. The weakest among the three was still Tan Tai Lian, but the difference wasn't big. Perhaps because she was stimulated by Helian Wuzi and Xia Yuyu, Tan Tai Lian's cultivation and training were crazier and more terrifying. She desperately chased after the two's footsteps. Of course, Immortal Venerable Yun Wei knew the reason, and this situation was what she wanted to see. If Qin Hao and the others are at the 160th supply station, I think Immortal Venerable Han Mei should have received more specific news. However, I still have to go and take a look. This little guy's future achievements are limitless. My three disciples can't be compared to her disciple, daughter, Qi. A moment later, Fairy Yun Wei also disappeared from the palace. In fact, she didn't only do it for her disciples, but also for herself to form a good relationship with Chen Hao. She, who had been paying attention to Chen Hao, was very clear that as long as Chen Hao could smoothly grow, he would be a monstrous genius who could definitely step into the ranks of the top experts in the boundless continent. Karma was a cycle, and luck was connected. The higher the cultivation, the more they cared. This was because they understood the benefits of forming a good relationship with a future powerhouse in advance. It was also because of this that Meng Yicheng, the president of the 160th supply station, did not hesitate to use half of his quintessential essence to condense a protective seal for Qin Hao and the others in a dangerous situation. Limitless Demon Palace's Heartbroken Hall, which was where Soul Fighter was, also received the news. However, even if they didn't receive the news, the Heartbroken Hall Master had already rushed over with a group of Manifestation Realm experts. The reason was very simple. Although Soul Fighter's junior brothers and sisters were much inferior to Soul Fighter, they were still the younger generation's genius disciples of Heartbroken Hall. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been allowed to follow Soul Fighter out to train. However, their longevity tablets shattered at almost the same time. Needless to say, it was obvious that Soul Fighter and the others were in big trouble. Soul Fighter was the only one left alive. Who else would dare to attack the disciples of Limitless Demon Palace? The Heartbroken Hall Master might not be able to participate in the battle between those below Manifestation Realm, but he definitely couldn't let anything happen to the strongest person of the younger generation in Heartbroken Hall. If it was a monster horde, then it would be fine, but if it was really Limitless Immortal Palace, Limitless Demon Palace, or some other great faction, then the Manifestation Realm experts he brought with him would let the other party know just how blind he was. We're lucky. We're not fated to die. A level 10 monster horde is too terrifying. Who knows how many people will die outside? Isn't that so? It's all thanks to junior brother Yin's good fortune. If junior sister wasn't injured, we might have died after resting for a day. Some of the cultivators on the tall walls of the supply station looked at the surging and terrifying monster horde and spoke with lingering fear. At that moment, those who were able to stand on the walls were those who weren't fated to die. They were extremely lucky and didn't go out to train today. It had only been an hour since the start of the monster horde, and it was estimated to be a level 10 monster horde. The monsters that surrounded them might not be very powerful, but they were becoming stronger too quickly, and their numbers were increasing too quickly. Based on their experience, the monster horde this time would definitely reach level 10. Some of the cultivators were fighting madly outside the supply station and welcoming the cultivators who were lucky enough to escape. Those who were heavily injured were protected while they waited for the barrier around the supply station to be activated. During a monster horde, the barrier could only be activated at certain times. Once they left, they had to last until the next time the barrier was activated before they could enter again. This was the same situation as when Qinhao ran into the monster horde in Heavenly Mist City. I am the head disciple of Limitless Demon Palace's Heartbroken Hall, Soul Fighter. Whoever saves me will be rewarded generously. You will be rewarded generously. At that moment, a bloody figure covered in terrifying wounds appeared in the monster horde 100 miles away from the supply station. He cried for help from afar. Even though this person had torn through the void and escaped a long distance away, he didn't expect the monster horde to erupt so quickly. He was confident that he could rush back to the supply station in time, but now, 100 miles. It was only 100 miles, but he felt that he couldn't hold on any longer. His true origin was almost depleted, and his body was heavily injured. What was even more tragic was that the superior-grade puppet substitute he relied on to save his life had also been destroyed by Qinhao and Qin Shui's terrifying attacks. Otherwise, he would have only needed to activate the puppet substitute to cross the 100 miles and reach the bottom of the city wall. Soul Fighter. Isn't that the expert ranked 36th on the Pagoda Monument? He's only in the initial stage of the Blessed Realm, but he suppressed countless experts in the middle stage of the Blessed Realm. He's a monstrous genius. If we can save him, it'll be good to befriend him. Don't think about it. It's 100 miles away, and we won't be able to return even if we rush over. We're right beside the city wall, and we're all in danger. Don't be distracted and fight with all your might. Some of the cultivators who were fighting near the city wall were discussing. Chapter 427. Although many people wanted to save him, they could only give up when they saw the overwhelming number of monsters. They could save him, but only if they had the ability to survive. Unless Soul Fighter could rush over on his own, no one dared to save him. After all, the beast tide had just begun. The ones fighting outside were all guards led by early-stage and mid-stage creation realm experts. This was also one of the rules after the beast tide, to train the cultivators. A level 10 beast tide was very powerful even at the beginning. The protective barrier here could only be activated for 2 hours. Every 2 hours, someone had to be replaced. Otherwise, not many people could survive. There was only an hour left. It was already a problem to go back and forth from a distance of 100 miles, not to mention that the number of monsters was still increasing rapidly. Who would dare to save him? Just as Soul Fighter was calling for help, rays of light flashed out from the transportation portal at the supply depot's core. Figures appeared in the supply depot. The leader of the group had just appeared when a powerful telepathic connection spread out. Oh. Soul Fighter is nearby. Fortunately. The person said. Clearly, this person had a special connection with Soul Fighter. Otherwise, no matter how high his cultivation was, he would not be able to pass through the seal and capture Soul Fighter's aura in the chaotic beast tide. Welcome, Demon Venerable. The Alliance members at the entrance of the transportation portal immediately bowed respectfully when they saw the person who had arrived. How's the situation outside the station? The beast tide is level 9, right? The person asked. The person who had arrived was the Limitless Demon Palace's Heartbroken Hall Master, Fan Suixin. On the way, he had received news that a beast tide had broken out at the 160th Supply Depot in Dian City. Demon Venerable, the beast tide has been re-estimated to be level 10, a staff member said respectfully. Level 10. Let's go and take a look. Hiss. After Fan Suixin finished speaking, he disappeared in a flash. When he appeared again, he was already on the city wall. "Welcome, Demon Venerable." The moment the person appeared, all the cultivators, whether they knew him or not, bowed respectfully. Their eyes were filled with respect and fear as they looked at the person who had arrived. Meng Yicheng, the leader of the Supply Depot Alliance, received the message from the transportation portal staff immediately and quickly went to Fan Suixin. "What?" Meng Yicheng didn't have time to salute when the man's expression suddenly became startled. His eyes flashed with a frightening light as he locked onto a soul fighter who was desperately trying to prick him with needles. "Hall Master Fan, thank you very much, Meng Yicheng. You're the president here. My personal disciple, Soul Fighter, is in grave danger. Please open the seal immediately. I will compensate your alliance for the cost." "Hall Master Fan, you must be joking. You coming here to help us is already the greatest support you can give to our alliance. Open it." Meng Yicheng immediately gave the order. Hiss hiss hiss, beams of dazzling light suddenly rose from the protective boundary of the supply depot. Fan Suixin had reached the peak of the Earth Immortal Realm, so he did not need to step out of the supply depot. With a wave of his hand, he unleashed a terrifying energy that seemed to connect heaven and earth. Chi! Rumble, the vast and terrifying energy contained a monstrous demonic aura. Wherever it passed, countless monsters were annihilated. In the blink of an eye, it crossed a distance of 100 miles and condensed into a 1,000-meter-long demonic hand. It directly wrapped around Soul Fighter, who was in a life-or-death situation. With a ripping sound, it retracted back to the supply station. "Ah, so powerful. The Demon Lord has made his move. This is definitely an ability that only an Earth Immortal can possess." This sudden scene instantly attracted the attention of countless people. Each and every one of them stared at the heaven-shocking hand in horror, extremely shocked. Human Immortal, Earth Immortal, Divine Immortal, Daluo Jinxian. This classification system was the same whether it was the Immortal Path, the Demon Path, or the Demon Path. In fact, the ancestors of the Immortal Path, the Demon Path, and the Demon Path were the Immortal Path. However, with the development of the long river of history, the Demon Path and the Demon Path opened up a shortcut and became independent sections. That was how the Demon Path and the Demon Path came into existence today. For example, Fan Suixin could be called the Celestial Immortal. However, out of respect for the Demon Path, they called him the Demon Lord. "Master, when Soul Fighter called for help but no one came to help, he thought that he was going to die here. He did not expect that at this critical moment, his master would come to his rescue." "Good, good. It's rare that you can hold on until now when you're injured to such a degree. Fortunately, I came in time, or else the consequences would be unimaginable. Soul Fighter, I have no objections if you insist on training yourself, but in such a dangerous situation, you could have died if you were not careful. This time, you've gone too far. You should have activated the puppet substitute." Fan Suixin said as he injected a stream of pure energy into Soul Fighter's body. "Master, if I could activate the puppet substitute, I would have done so long ago. What do you mean? I've already used up my puppet substitute. Otherwise, I would have died with my junior brothers and sisters. Those despicable bastards sneaked up on me. What? Who dared to sneak up on you?" "It's the disciples of the Winter Plum Hall of the Wuji Immortal Palace. One of them is Qin Shui, who only rose to fame in the past 6 months. The other two are the bastards Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu. How could they sneak up on you? How could they have killed the others?" Fan Suixin frowned as a ferocious look flashed across his face. Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu could not withstand a single blow, but that Qin Shui is only half a step to the manifestation realm, yet she has mastered the Wuji Immortal Palace's concealment technique, which allows her to merge with everything in the world. However, even she can't do anything to me. There's also that unknown fellow. If not for him, our people would not have died. It's also because of his sneak attack that I had to use the puppet substitute. It's a pity that they must have all died in the beast tide, or else I would definitely avenge my junior brothers and sisters by cutting them into pieces and destroying their bodies and souls. Ah. As Soul Fighter spoke, he looked at the towering battle record ranking pagoda not far away. After all, he did not see Chen Hao and the others perish with his own eyes. He only wanted to confirm that his speculation was almost 100% correct. However, he did not expect to see the names of the proud heaven's guardians on the pagoda. What surprised him even more was that the names of Chen Hao, Chen Shui, and the others were all on the individual battle record ranking pagoda. What did this mean? It meant that, until now, none of the members of the proud heaven's guardians had died. Including Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu, they were all still alive. Otherwise, their names would inevitably disappear from the pagoda along with their deaths. They are still alive. How is this possible? How is this possible? Soul Fighter could not believe his eyes. Not to mention the beast tide, even if there were hundreds of thousands of monsters, they would not have been able to hold on until now. Meng Yicheng, who was originally standing to the side, had already realized that something was wrong when he heard Soul Fighter say the names of Chen Shui and the others. After listening to Soul Fighter's account, he quietly left. He did not want to stay here any longer. This already involved the battle between the Wuji Immortal Palace and the Wuji Demon Palace. As a member of the alliance, he would not be involved. As for helping Chen Hao and the others condense the protective barrier, there was no problem. This was because Chen Hao and the others had issued the highest level rescue mission. As a member of the alliance, he could also participate. Moreover, if he had rescued Chen Hao and the others, at least 500 million upper-grade primal crystal stones would have gone into his pocket. The rest would be distributed by the members who rushed to the location of the mission. Of course, the reason why Meng Yicheng left was also because he thought more highly of Chen Hao and the others, especially Chen Hao. From the importance Fan Suixin placed on Soul Fighter, it could be seen how strong he was. Furthermore, he was an expert at the initial stage of the Blessed Realm. However, he was defeated by Chen Hao and the others, and seemed to have killed everyone else. What kind of combat power was this? Under Fan Suixin's questioning, Soul Fighter, a despicable person who abandoned his senior and junior brothers, completely inverted right and wrong. He accused Chen Hao, Chen Shui, and the others of being as shameless as possible. He even made up stories about how Chen Hao and the others looked down on the Broken Heart Palace. As an expert at the Earth's celestial stage, Fan Suixin naturally did not believe everything Soul Fighter said. In fact, as long as there was a result, it was enough. The result was that more than 10 genius disciples of the Broken Heart Palace died at the hands of Chen Hao and the others. This was enough. Master, I didn't expect them to be able to hold on until now. I think it must be because they issued the highest level rescue mission. However, if the experts of the Wuji Immortal Palace did not come, they would definitely die in the beast tide and would not be able to hold on for long. Soul Fighter said after briefly describing the evil deeds of Chen Hao and the others. Is Chen Hao very strong? Fan Suixin could vaguely tell that Soul Fighter was pointing the finger at Chen Hao, who was only at the later stage of the primordial soul realm. Yes, a little strong. The main thing is that he sneaked up on me. He must have cultivated an extremely powerful concealment unique skill. I don't know if it is the unique skill of the Wuji Immortal Palace. Moreover, his physical body is very strong. He might have cultivated an abnormal unique skill of body refining. They are still alive. The experts of the Wuji Immortal Palace will definitely arrive soon. It will not be difficult to save them. Your senior brothers and senior sisters will be under your command. I only want a result, and that is to find an opportunity to kill all of them. Otherwise, the reputation of the Broken Heart Palace will be lost because of you. Yes. Master. You go and treat your injuries first. Celestial Prime Han Mei, thank you for coming to help. After more than 10 minutes, a figure appeared on the city wall. Meng Yicheng quickly appeared in front of the person and said respectfully. Celestial Prime Han Mei was famous in the entire Boundless Land. Everyone knew her. It was not because of her high cultivation. In fact, Celestial Prime Han Mei's cultivation was not stronger than Fan Suishin of the Wuji Immortal Palace. However, Meng Yicheng was obviously much more respectful when facing Celestial Prime Han Mei. This was because Celestial Prime Han Mei's identity was not as simple as being the palace master of the Wuji Immortal Palace. Otherwise, Celestial Prime Han Mei would not have retained her position as the palace master after she had disappeared for more than 100 years. To be continued. Chapter 428. I should be the one thanking President Meng for giving them 4 hours. Venerable Han Mei said coldly, all the creation realm experts in Han Mei Hall will come to help. Thank you very much. I'm afraid this beast tide is level 10. I'm afraid we won't be able to hold on for 4 hours. Venerable Han Mei, I'll open the bounded domain for you. Your disciple's position. I know. That's good. Meng Yicheng said and directly gave the order to open the bounded domain. Chen Hao didn't know that when he was still digging and Chen Shui and the others were recovering, Venerable Han Mei had quietly arrived at their location. The terrifying beast tide didn't even have time to sense her existence before she directly integrated into the protective bounded domain condensed by Chen Hao. In a moment, she entered the deep hole dug by Chen Hao. Moreover, Chen Hao clearly blocked the hole, but there was no fluctuation. This was the 5 elements escape technique that only Earth's celestial stage experts could successfully cultivate. It allowed the body to integrate with all things and pass through mountains and seas. Comet crystal. Black sand crystal. Perish red crystal. This is what he and little Shui got from the 9 nether frost pond. When Chen Hao stopped digging and took out the stones he got from the origin space to start setting up the bounded domain, he didn't realize that his every move was under the watch of Venerable Han Mei. Chen Hao and Chen Shui didn't hide the fact that they entered the 9 nether frost pond from Venerable Han Mei. The reason was very simple. When they came out of the 9 nether frost pond, their every move was under the surveillance of Venerable Han Mei. In their conversation, they naturally mentioned the 9 nether frost pond. Venerable Han Mei was extremely shocked at that time, but she knew the seriousness of the matter. Therefore, she didn't tell anyone and wouldn't tell anyone. What kind of bounded domain is this? After seeing Chen Hao quickly use the crystal to set up a bounded domain that even she felt was mysterious, Venerable Han Mei was even more surprised. What kind of secret is hidden in this kid's body? I know his experience like the back of my hand. Where did he learn this bounded domain that even I have never seen before? If I set it up, the power will definitely increase by 10 times. Unfortunately, I can't take out such precious crystal. These 2 arrogant fellows have actually been tamed by this brat to become docile and obedient. How long had it been? Unbelievable. After 3 hours, Chen Shui and the rest recovered a little and met up with Chen Hao. When Immortal Venerable Han Mei saw Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxu's respectful attitude towards Chen Hao, she was even more surprised. She really couldn't understand how these 2 fellows, who didn't fear her, the hall master, who had suddenly returned, could become so obedient in front of Chen Hao in just 2 short days. She was very clear why the 2 of them chased after Chen Shui. The reason why she agreed was to give Chen Hao some pressure and color. At the same time, she also wanted to let Chen Hao realize how popular Chen Shui was. However, the current situation was simply too unexpected. Where was the color? It was as if he had become Chen Hao's most loyal supporter, she couldn't figure it out. Of course, if he had seen what everyone had gone through in the past half a day, he would have figured it out. Bang! Boom! Finally, when there was only a quarter of an hour left before the 4-hour time limit mentioned by Meng Yicheng, the protective seal exploded under the increasingly powerful attacks of the monsters. Chen Hao also accurately activated the major phaseless heaven sealing formation before the protective seal shattered. I want to see how long they can last. This beast tide is definitely a level 10 beast tide, and it's very likely that it will continue to grow. This is also a kind of training for them. Immortal Venerable Han Mei quietly hid beside Chen Hao, Chen Shui, and the others, not in a hurry to make a move. When immortal Venerable Han Mei saw everyone's injuries, she knew that they must have experienced a very fierce battle. However, she didn't know how everyone's performance was. However, from Meng Yicheng's actions and words, she could feel that the performance of Chen Hao and the others must have attracted Meng Yicheng's attention. Otherwise, Meng Yicheng wouldn't have spent half of his true essence to condense the formation for Chen Hao and the others. Moreover, there must be a lot of secrets, but she didn't have the time to ask. The moment the protective seal broke, there was a huge vibration. Even though everyone was deep underground, they felt it very intense. One by one, they woke up from their cultivation state and ran out of their independent caves. No, the strength of this beast tide is probably beyond our imagination. It won't be easy for us to get through it safely. Everyone, cheer up and try your best to recover. The more dangerous it is, the calmer you have to be. What's the use of panicking? Try your best to recover. The longer we persist, the greater our chances of survival. Don't waste time. Chen Hao said with a solemn expression. His powerful soul perception had clearly sensed that the monsters outside would not give up on them. These monsters all had human intelligence. At this moment, although the major phaseless heaven-sealing formation had blocked their aura, the monsters obviously knew that they were inside. Moreover, the moment the protective seal broke, they began to violently attack the cave he dug. And they were destroying it at an astonishing speed. Fortunately, after a few minutes, as the lava became harder and harder, the speed of destruction slowed down. Chen Hao heaved a sigh of relief. However, roar, rumble, half-step human immortal monsters. After a few minutes, Chen Hao's hair stood on end. An extremely terrifying aura, like a sharp sword, began to penetrate through the air. The speed of destruction increased by several times. Roar! 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 Damn it! Hundreds of monster commanders, other than the ones that besieged us just now, there are even half-step human immortals. Chen Hao's expression became extremely ugly. He originally thought that with such powerful rocks and the formation, they should be able to hold on for a long time until the experts came to rescue them. No matter what, he did not expect to become a turtle in a jar so soon. This was even more frustrating than before. Because all of them did not even have the right to fight. What kind of concept was a half-step human immortal monster? Once the formation was broken, they would be instantly bombarded into pieces and basically have no power to fight back. This was the suppression of absolute power. Half-step human immortals actually came. Is this still a level 10 beast tide? Venerable Han Mei was also surprised. At this moment, she, who was hiding near Chen Hao, frowned. Obviously, the arrival of half-step human immortal monsters was beyond her expectations. One had to know that the outbreak of a beast tide usually started from weak to strong. Even if it was a level 10 beast tide, it had only been 4 hours since it started. How could half-step human immortal monsters come so quickly? I'm afraid this beast tide is not simple. Venerable Han Mei knew that for Chen Hao and the others, this could no longer be used as a training ground. Roar! 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 The violent shaking was as if the earth was about to collapse. Huyen Albua and the others could not force themselves to enter the recovery state. Their bodies were bounced up by the terrifying shaking, and one by one, they withdrew from their cultivation in horror. Boss! How can he be so strong? Everything has an accident. Half-step human immortal monsters, it seems like this accident is really going to kill us. However, there is another way. If we don't succeed, all of us will die. If we succeed, other than me and Xiao Shui, all of you will have to cultivate again for at least a few years. Are you willing to do it? Venerable Han Mei had already decided to show herself, but she did not expect Chen Hao to suddenly say such a thing. Half-step human immortal. Isn't that a death sentence? Boss, tell us. Anyway, we have already died once. If we succeed, it will be a good thing. Yes. Boss, tell us. No matter what, we will do as you say. There is not much time, so I will make it short. I have a magical treasure that can absorb your primordial spirit, and it can completely conceal the aura of your primordial spirit. As long as you give up your physical body and let your primordial spirit leave your body, you will be able to escape the detection of the monsters. There is no way to survive in the beast tide with your physical body. The only way is to give up your physical body. As for me and Xiao Shui, we have the Heart Sutra that can merge with all things in the world. Taking advantage of the cover of the major phaseless heaven ceiling formation, Xiao Shui and I only need to dig a hole in the distance. Maybe we will have a chance to escape. But the chance is not big. Boss. For us, you and sister-in-law. Hearing Chen Hao's words, everyone was shocked, but at the same time, a trace of gratitude flashed in their eyes. Obviously, Chen Hao and Chen Shuerua wanted to escape on their own. If they were left behind, the chances of escaping would be higher. However, Chen Hao and Chen Shui did not do so. Moreover, even if they gave up their physical bodies, they still needed to discuss it with them. Since I brought all of you out, we will live and die together. We don't have much time, at most 15 minutes, and the monsters will be here. All of you need to make a decision immediately. Boss, you and sister-in-law can escape. There is no point in leaving your primordial spirit behind and seizing your soul to be reborn. After 18 years, we will still be able to reach our current level. Moreover, we have the blood sacrifice oath, so we will definitely be able to follow you again. I, Huyen Albua, will stay. Second brother is right. If I stay, won't I just die? Boss, don't worry about us. If you and sister-in-law can escape, when we are reincarnated, we will receive special treatment from you. Ha ha ha. That's even better. The first king said. All of you, shut up. I will give all of you two choices. Either we wait for death together, or you give up your physical bodies and try it with me. Just as the others were about to speak, Chen Hao said coldly, there are still 14 minutes left. Any later and it will be too late. Boss, slap. Just as Huyen Albua was about to speak, Chen Hao gave him a slap without any warning. He blocked his mouth and said domineeringly, say your decision. If you do it, then do it immediately. If you don't, then we will all die here. Chapter 429. Of course, Chen Hao knew why everyone chose to stay. It was nothing more than sacrificing them to create more opportunities for him and Qin Shui to escape. The wisdom of monsters was no less than that of humans. If they didn't see a living person, how could they not be suspicious? If Chen Hao and Qin Shui escaped, and they stayed behind, dismembered and destroyed, the situation would be completely different. But how could Chen Hao do such a thing? A real man has to do and not do. That was not Chen Hao's character. The crowd exchanged glances with one another and clenched their teeth. In the end, they still nodded toward Chen Hao's domineering attitude. But, just as everyone was about to condense their essence, qi, and spirit towards their primordial spirit and give up their physical bodies, a gentle energy directly wrapped everyone. Alright, come with me. A cold but slightly gentle voice sounded. Mother. Chen Shui suddenly opened her eyes wide. Looking at the figure that appeared silently in front of everyone, she was full of surprise, and excitement. Death, who was willing to die? Being able to see through life and death did not mean that one was willing to die. A bad life was better than a good death. What's more, whether it was Qin Shui or Chen Hao, or everyone present, they were very young and had many unfulfilled wishes, many things to do, many things that they hoped to do but did not do. Palace Master. Greetings, Palace Master. Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu also looked at the person in surprise and bowed. Cough cough. Chen Hao's eyes widened as his mind raced. Almost instantly, he was certain that the nameless old man had entered before he activated the formation. Otherwise, there was no way he would not have sensed him. This array was connected to his and old god's mind. Even with the nameless old man's cultivation, it was absolutely impossible for him to silently pass through the array and appear in front of them. Greetings. Mother. When Han Mei Immortal Venerable looked at Qin Hao, he didn't know how to address her, but after a slight hesitation, he simply followed Qin Shui and called her mother. Han Mei Immortal Venerable was shocked and didn't say anything for a long time. Qin Shui also had an awkward expression on her face. Even if she usually addressed her as master, this time, it was completely because it was too sudden, too pleasantly surprised, too unexpected that she couldn't help but call out, "Mother." Unexpectedly, Qin Hao, who had been arrogant, domineering, and righteous just a moment ago, had become so thick-skinned in an instant. One must know that Han Mei Immortal Venerable did not officially announce her relationship with Qin Shui. Even Jiang Hai, Huang Wenxiu, and the others could only guess Qin Shui's background. This form of address is too early. Han Mei Venerable held back for a long time and finally said such a sentence. Well, since I'm going to call you that sooner or later, I might as well change it now, no. Without my permission, you called me Immortal Venerable Han Mei. Although Venerable Han Mei already knew Qin Hao very well, she didn't expect this fella to be so casual in front of her. How could he call her mother now? If she allowed it, this brat would be too complacent. This was the daughter she had carried for more than 100 years. How could it be so easy? Let's go. If we delay any longer, these beasts will attack us. Mother, wait, you still dare to call me that? This. I won't call you that in front of others. Now that we're all on the same side, it's too estranged for me to call you Immortal Venerable Han Mei. Mother, since you're here, can you help me a little more? Help me a little more. What do you want to do? I keep feeling that there's something I want below. It's just that my ability can only dig to this depth. I can't dig any deeper. So. These are just high-grade fire attribute ores. Although they're good materials for refining, they're everywhere in the hundreds of thousands of miles around the supply station. Any deeper is just a little better. What do you want? If you need it, you can just take these. After refining with the heavenly fire and refining with the 1000 tempering method, it's very easy to raise the quality of this mineral to the highest level. I know this, but I really feel that there's something I need below. It's definitely not this mineral. Qin Hao said seriously. Is that so? Seeing Qin Hao like this, Immortal Venerable Han Mei pondered for a moment. Qin Hao's so-called feeling usually only appeared when he encountered a great opportunity. Moreover, it had nothing to do with the strength of one's perception. Could it be that there's really something else here? Yes, how do I dig? How deep do I have to dig? Immortal Venerable Han Mei said. As she spoke, she waved her hand and sent out 108 streams of energy, which directly poured into the formation formed by Qin Hao. In an instant, the light in the entire cave was more than 10 times stronger than before. It was obvious that the power of the formation had increased by several levels. Follow the direction I'm digging and continue down. It's not very deep, only about 8,000 feet. Immortal Venerable Han Mei didn't say anything, but when Huyen Aobo and the others heard Qin Hao's words, they were dumbfounded. Damn, 8,000 feet isn't very deep. Perhaps only their boss could say this. Huyen Aobo and the others were fine, but Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu, who knew Qin Hao very little, were even more speechless. Qi. Immortal Venerable Han Mei frowned slightly and made her move. She didn't use the carving technique, but relied on her incomparably powerful true essence to directly penetrate. This was something that couldn't be helped. Although the highest level of the carving technique was indestructible, it couldn't use any true essence. Even if it was digging tofu, it would take a long time to dig a distance of 8,000 feet. With Immortal Venerable Han Mei's cultivation, she only needed to use her true essence to penetrate it, and the speed was so fast that it made everyone stunned. The incomparably sharp energy was like a laser cutter, but also like a diamond drill. A deep circular hole continued to extend downwards, but Immortal Venerable Han Mei didn't even have a place to move. Okay, it's done. In less than a minute, Chen Hao hurriedly stopped her. "I'll go down and take a look, I'll be right back." "Be careful, the temperature of the lava below is unbearable even for creation realm experts." Immortal Venerable Han Mei sensed the situation below and reminded. "Don't worry." Hiss. While everyone was puzzled, Chen Hao directly turned into a stream of light and drilled into the cave. Billowing heat waves hit his face. As Chen Hao went deeper, the temperature rose sharply. Even Chen Hao felt a huge pressure, but fortunately, it was still within his tolerance range. Chen Hao was very excited because he was about to collect the materials needed to further fuse with Old God, the fire essence jade marrow. In fact, when Chen Hao chose to dig here, he had already discovered the existence of the fire essence jade marrow. Of course, this was what Old God sensed. Although Chen Hao's perception could sense tens of thousands of feet underground, he couldn't catch the aura of the fire essence jade marrow. In fact, if one hadn't seen the fire essence jade marrow, no one would be able to catch it. Otherwise, with Immortal Venerable Han Mei's cultivation, how could she not feel the abnormality? This is the fire essence jade marrow. After arriving at the bottom of the cave, Chen Hao stared at the crimson lava at the bottom of the cave and frowned. Even in front of him, Chen Hao still didn't find anything unusual. The fire essence jade marrow that Old God spoke of didn't seem to be any different from the surrounding lava. Yes, don't doubt it. It's normal that you can't see it. The fire essence jade marrow has been nurtured for millions of years and has a certain level of intelligence. At this moment, it sensed our arrival and simulated the color and aura of the lava. "Let's begin," Old God said. "Okay." Hiss. Chen Hao's mind stirred. He no longer cared about the attention of Immortal Venerable Han Mei and the others. In the face of death a moment ago, he had already exposed the fact that he had a special magic weapon. There was nothing to worry about as long as they didn't know about the existence of Old God and Treasure Hunter's sword spirit. The moment his mind stirred, under Old God's guidance, a seven-colored light floated out from between Chen Hao's eyebrows and slowly integrated into the lava at the bottom of the cave. Chen Hao only needed to cooperate with Old God. He only needed to provide energy, while Old God's spiritual sense slowly integrated into the lava. Between the heavens and the earth, any treasure that had gained sentience was not a simple matter if one wanted to extract it. The first thing one had to do was to tame the sentience within it. Whether it was through coercion, bribery, or goodwill, in short, one had to make it willingly before they could successfully extract it. Otherwise, this intelligence that was born between heaven and earth would resist to the death. It would rather destroy its own intelligence than be willing to be extracted. In that case, even if the fire essence jade marrow was extracted, it would lose its original effect. Blood essence. After a full 10 minutes, Old God suddenly said in Chen Hao's mind. "Qi." Chen Hao didn't hesitate. He directly forced out a blood arrow and sprayed it on the lava below him. Voila! In an instant, a ghostly blue flame rose from the lava. In the next moment, the lava underwent an astonishing change. It turned into a fiery red, crystal-clear liquid. A terrifying heat was contained within, but it didn't leak out. Because of this change, the surrounding aura didn't change at all. This was the fire essence jade marrow. Absorb. Hiss. The liquid was 30 feet in radius. With the urging of Chen Hao's mind, it turned into a water arrow and fused into Chen Hao's eyebrows with lightning speed. At this moment, Chen Hao could clearly feel a faint life fluctuation. Through the blood essence, it created a subtle connection with him. This feeling allowed Chen Hao to be sure that if he wanted to, he could freely control the terrifying heavenly flame aura contained within. This heavenly flame was of a high level, reaching a realm that Chen Hao had never comprehended. Phew! I didn't expect this little fellow to be so difficult to deal with. Its intelligence is quite high. Fortunately, it is still within my control. Once we return, we can go into seclusion and further integrate. Old God said. What is the level of this heavenly flame? It seems very strong. Chen Hao asked. 9-layered heavenly flame. The highest level of heavenly flame. In the future, as your cultivation increases, it can transform into a higher level mystical flame. Chapter 430. Mystic fire. According to the Boundless Worlds classification, one needed to reach the human immortal stage to be able to comprehend it. The heaven fire was the highest level of the fire attribute below the human immortal stage. 9 Heavenly fire. That's not bad. I should be able to use it to attack, right? Don't think like that. The reason why you chose the fire essence Jade Marrow with spiritual wisdom is because of its self-recovery ability. Otherwise, how many times can you use such a small amount of heaven fire? After you and I have further integrated, it will exist in the smelting furnace. Whether it is alchemy or weapon refining, it will allow you to accurately control the fire. When refining the same elixir or weapon, you only need to do it once and it will remember the whole process. The next time you refine it, you don't need to control it at all and it will cooperate with you very well. More importantly, after the smelting, it can self-recover fire attribute energy. Sounds good. Let's go. Hiss. A stream of light flashed and Qin Hao appeared in front of everyone. What is it? Senior Immortal Han Mei asked curiously. When the fire essence Jade Marrow appeared, she had clearly sensed the aura of the fire essence Jade Marrow. However, it was nothing in her eyes. The only thing that surprised her was that it contained a trace of spiritual wisdom. I don't know. I feel that it's a good thing. It's useful for me to comprehend the heaven fire realm. Qin Hao said vaguely and did not want to explain too much. Senior Immortal Han Mei did not ask any more questions. She waved her hand and released a stream of energy to wrap everyone up. With a casual grab, the array that Qin Hao had set up dissipated. 108 crystals that even Senior Immortal Han Mei was tempted by were taken into her bag. She said, I'll give you a spiritual medicine that can regenerate your broken arm in a short time and these crystals are mine, cough, cough, no problem. If you need it, I have more. We're family so you don't have to treat me like an outsider. Take it. When we return to the supply station, swallow it and your broken arm will be regenerated in 2 hours. Chi. Senior Immortal Han Mei stared at Qin Hao and said. After that, she did not say anything else and directly wrapped everyone up and rushed to the top of the cave. Die. Chi chi chi. Rumble. Ow ow ow. When Immortal Venerable Han Mei led everyone to the void, she casually launched attacks that turned those fearless monsters into ashes. Even the half-step human immortal monster was no exception. What do you mean by absolute power? This was it. Is this the strength of an immortal venerable? Too strong. When can I reach such a realm? Whether it was Huyan Albua and the rest, or Qin Hao, they were all overwhelmed with shock. The monsters that had almost forced them to their deaths were like ants in front of them, unable to withstand a single blow. With a wave of his hand, a large area was wiped out. No more monsters could come within 100 miles of them. Power, power, if I had this kind of power, how could this group of monsters force me into such a desperate situation? Qin Hao felt Han Mei's terrifying power and clenched his remaining fist. Open. A spatial crack suddenly appeared in front of them. Immortal Venerable Han Mei led them into the spatial crack. The violent and chaotic energy couldn't get close to them. The spatial crack was moving forward at an astonishing speed. Kacha! Kacha! In the chaotic space, terrifying lightning would erupt from time to time. Looking from afar, one could see a blue passage that seemed to stretch across the Milky Way. Densely packed monsters were wrapped in it, constantly tearing through the space barrier and sending them into the boundless land. They've become so dense. Senior Immortal Han Mei was surprised when she saw this scene. She led everyone in the chaotic space and quickly changed directions. Obviously, she was avoiding the eruption of the monster Tide River and the terrifying thunderbolts that it triggered. In just 2 minutes, Senior Immortal Han Mei directly tore the space and everyone appeared on the side of the 160th supply station's wall. Boom 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 boom, kill. Terrifying explosions and the sounds of slaughter immediately entered everyone's ears. There was an endless number of monsters. Around the city walls were countless experts at the peak of the late-stage primordial spirit realm, half-step to the creation realm, as well as early-stage and middle-stage creation realm experts. They gathered in waves and fought with the monsters. The scene was extremely intense and tragic. The protective barrier opens once every 2 hours. High-level monsters won't come close to the city for a few days. If you're not afraid, you can train here. However, if you encounter danger again, I won't take action. Senior Immortal Han Mei was still protecting everyone with her energy. The surrounding monsters that were not afraid of death could not get close at all. Do you want to try? Senior Immortal Han Mei believed that Qin Hao and Qin Shue's combat power should be able to withstand it. Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu could also barely do it. However, she wasn't sure about Huyan Aobua and the others. After all, the cultivators who came out at this moment were led by creation realm experts. Let's withdraw our protection. I've been holding it in for a long time. Don't worry about them. Qin Hao said directly. All right. Be careful. Master, it's them. The one with the broken arm is Qin Hao. When Senior Immortal Han Mei, Qin Hao, and the others appeared at the foot of the city wall, on the city wall, Soul Fighter, who had spent more than half an hour to recover, stopped healing early because he was worried about the situation of Qin Hao and the others. At this moment, when he saw Qin Hao and the others, he said with a ferocious face. Just these few people were able to almost wipe out your entire army. After sensing the aura of Qin Hao and the others with his powerful perception, Fan Suixin stared at Soul Fighter and said with a gloomy face. If not for the fact that Soul Fighter was his favorite disciple, he would have given him a tight slap. In his opinion, this was a great humiliation. Not to mention that Soul Fighter Mo was in the blessed realm. Even if 10 of the other 17 people were in the same realm, they would be able to kill Qin Hao and the others. But in the end, all 17 of them died, and Soul Fighter Mo, who was in the blessed realm, almost died. How could this be? Master, they are very strong. Most importantly, their sneak attack caused us serious damage, humph. Are they back? At the same time, a graceful figure locked onto Senior Immortal Han Mei and the others. When she arrived, she first confirmed whether Qin Hao and the others were there, and then she got the news from Meng Yichong. She also knew that Senior Immortal Han Mei had already gone to rescue them, so she did not ask to open the seal. With Senior Immortal Han Mei, as long as she could arrive in time, it was impossible that they could not save them. Kill. At Qin Hao's order, the group immediately started to kill crazily. After facing 2 life and death situations, especially the last one where they were forced to be cowards, everyone had a belly full of anger and killing intent that needed to be released. Although they were only killing some small fries and not the main culprits, at least they could vent their anger. Furthermore, resisting the beast horde was indeed the best place for young people to train themselves. Naturally, they would not give up. Huyan Aobua and the rest of the 12 formed the formless 12 constellations battle formation, while Qin Hao, Qin Shue, Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu were at the 4 corners of the battle formation, complementing each other. Coupled with everyone's desire to vent their frustrations, the commotion caused by the battle attracted the attention of countless people on the city walls. Even Senior Immortal Han Mei, Senior Immortal Yun Wei, Fan Suixin, and the others were dumbfounded. How could a dozen people with low realms be so strong? The 16 people seemed to have formed an indestructible war chariot. They charged through the monsters near the city walls, and wherever they went, countless monsters screamed in pain and were torn apart. Even the monsters in the middle stage of Blessed Realm could not stop the group's advance. The monsters' limbs flew everywhere, and what made some of the poor people speechless was that Qin Hao and the others did not even stop for a moment after killing the monsters in the creation realm. They did not even care about the precious monster's inner core. What a magical battle formation. Many experts saw the clues and praised in their hearts. The disciples of Limitless Immortal Palace are really strong. Look, there are a few groups of disciples over there. They are all from the various halls of Limitless Demon Palace. Their realms are obviously much higher, but their lethality is far less than these disciples. You can't say that. Didn't you see that it was Senior Immortal Han Mei who brought them here? Senior Immortal Han Mei, her identity is not simple. Wouldn't it be easy for her to learn all the lost techniques of Limitless Immortal Palace? The other disciples from the various halls of Limitless Immortal Palace are also far from being comparable to them, right? That's true. However, the talent of these people is also incomparable to ordinary people, especially the one with the broken arm and the one in the blue dress. It's really incredible. How? Chen Hao. Chen Hao, 3 voices, separated by a few miles, penetrated the dense monster group, terrifying beast roars, and explosions, and appeared in Chen Hao's ears. Chen Hao, who was killing to his heart's content, felt a thump in his heart, and immediately, his whole face revealed a touch of surprise. How, only Xia Yuyu would call him this. Who else could call him Chen Hao twice with the same surprise and different feelings, other than Helian Wuzi and Tan Tai Lian, who had always been calling him by his name from the beginning? Bang bang bang. Chen Hao punched and kicked, and in an instant, he violently blasted away the attacking monsters. His whole body suddenly soared into the sky, and his eyes were directly locked on a few miles away, where 3 figures were fighting fiercely. After not seeing each other for more than 2 years, how could Chen Hao not be excited when they suddenly met in this strange place? Kill! Chen Hao, who was originally killing back and forth in the vicinity, suddenly led everyone to kill in another direction. What's wrong with you? Seeing Chen Hao's abnormality, Chen Shui asked puzzledly. He. Little Wu and the others are also here. Chen Hao chuckled and said with a voice transmission. Hearing Chen Hao's words, Chen Shui curled her lips, but didn't say anything. She released her mind and immediately sensed the aura of the 3 women. Helian Wuzi, Xia Yuyu, and Tan Tai Lian only followed the disciples of Yun Wei Hall to gain experience. Senior Immortal Yun Wei didn't mention to them that Chen Hao might be here, but how could they not notice the terrifying momentum caused by Chen Hao, Chen Shui, and the others who were not far away? This sudden surprise almost made the 3 of them lose their minds. Fortunately, they were surrounded by senior brothers and sisters who took care of them. Chapter 431. What are they doing? When the Yunwei Hall disciples who were with Helian Wuzi and the other 2 saw Chen Hao and the others approach them directly, they all frowned slightly. Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxu knew them. Chen Shui was also known by someone else. After all, the disciples of Limitless Immortal Palace often had the opportunity to train together. However, no one recognized the one-armed youth, Huyen Ao Bo, and the rest of the group. Moreover, they had already seen that the one-armed youth was the leader. Whether it was the battle strength or actions, it could prove this point. Although they knew each other, the disciples of each palace had a competitive relationship. Basically, they did not have any friendship. Why were they rushing towards them aggressively at this time? Wow, there are 3 beauties. Boss brought us here to see the beauties. Jing Tiangang and Bailey Lianqing's eyes lit up. The beauties are looking at me, go, with your pig head, it's more like looking at me. Jing Tiangang and Bailey Lianqing did not change their nature in such a chaotic situation. Of course, the main reason was that there was no pressure. The level of the monsters now could not be compared to the monsters they encountered in the depths. Even if they did not use the battle formation, they could handle it. Not to mention, they were in the 12 phaseless constellations battle formation. Otherwise, they would not have the leisure to do this. They are obviously looking at Boss. They are disciples of Limitless Immortal Palace. Look at Boss's expression. Could it be? Little 8 and Little 9, do you know them? Huyen Aobo, who was beside the 2, did not reveal his lecherous gaze this time and said rationally. I've heard. They should be the 3 female disciples of Yunwei Palace who started to show their talents in the past 2 years. They are called Helian Wuzi, Xia Yuyu and Tan Tai Lian. I don't know who they are, but they are not bad. Hee, I have a new target. Jiang Hai, this time you can't fight with me. There are 3, don't choose the same as me. What's with your expressions? Huang Wenqiu had not finished speaking when Jing Tiangang and Beili Lianqing's expressions changed. Audacious. Damn, do you want to die? You two perverts. Is this something you can be tempted by? Huyan Aobua, Jing Tiangang, and Beili Lianqing stared at the three of them and said in a low voice. Ranking is ranking. Don't think that you can suppress the two of us just because you're ranked high. Why can't we? We're both from the limitless immortal palace. Although we're not from the same palace, we're still close to each other. Huang Wenqiu said unwillingly. Awesome. Alright, then go ahead. Anyway, you guys have no duties, so you can rush over now. I'll support you. Yeah, I support it too. I have faith in you. Go, go. Show me your might and majesty. Don't listen to them. These three people are our sisters-in-law. At this moment, Meng Xiao couldn't stand it anymore and said in a low voice. 3 sisters-in-law. What do you mean? Jiang Hai and Huang Wenqiu were puzzled. They naturally didn't know about Qin Hao's romantic affairs, but Huyan Aobua and the others all knew about it when they were drinking. After hearing the name from Huang Wenqiu, how could he not remember? They are both boss Dao companions. Meng Xiao said. It can't be, right? Isn't that a little too exaggerated? Jiang Hai and Huang Wenqiu were a little dumbfounded. What's so exaggerated about it? The three of them, Aunt Shui, and Boss are all from the Eastern continent. Hey, brat, what do you mean? The sky is full of monsters, and they're crowding toward us. Is it fun? When they were 10,000 feet away, the Blessed Realm expert who led the team from Yunwei Hall, a teenager who was slightly older than Qin Hao and the others, shouted at Qin Hao, who was charging ahead. Senior brother Yun, he's looking for us. Before Qin Hao could say anything, Xia Yuyu spoke first. We'll go over first. Thank you for leading us, senior brother. Chi chi chi. Once Xia Yuyu finished speaking, she, Helian Wuzi, and Tantai Lian directly activated their energy and blasted away the monsters around them. They also rushed toward Qin Hao. This. Junior sisters, you want to leave the team? Then. Who is he? He's Qin Hao. If there's a chance, I'll be with you again. I'm sorry. Xia Yuyu said apologetically, but her figure didn't stop at all. Qin Hao. He's Qin Hao. Hearing Xia Yuyu's words, the disciples of Yunwei Hall all revealed surprised expressions. Unlike Cold Plum Hall, all the members of Yunwei Hall, regardless of whether they were young disciples or high-ranking members, were familiar with the name Qin Hao. As early as a year ago, when Qin Hao stepped into the central continent, senior immortal Yunwei had announced Qin Hao's information. If any disciple of Yunwei Hall met Qin Hao during their training, they had to take care of him. He was Yunwei Hall's top VIP. Moreover, senior immortal Yunwei also faintly revealed the relationship between Xia Yuyu and the other two and Qin Hao. It was also because of this that Xia Yuyu, Helian Wuzi, and Tantai Lian didn't have any flies around them. No wonder the Hall Master values him so much. At this moment, all the disciples of Yunwei Hall who were in the midst of battle looked at Qin Hao with completely different eyes. Expand the range and respectfully welcome the arrival of the 3 sisters-in-law. Huyan Aobua let out an exaggerated roar, and the phaseless constellation battle formation formed by the 12 of them instantly changed its formation with a crash. When Helian Wuzi and the other 2 heard Huyan Aobua's exaggerated shout, they were a little happy in their hearts. Of course, they were also a little embarrassed. Happy because it seemed that Qin Hao had already told the people who were with him. Embarrassed because this address was a little too direct. After all, although their relationship with Qin Hao was clear, they still hadn't become true Dao companions. Hao, what's wrong with your arm? Xia Yuyu was always so simple and direct, without the slightest barrier of meeting after a long separation. The moment she met up with Qin Hao, she took the initiative to move to Qin Hao's side and asked. Helian Wuzi, who was as cold as the moon and whose aura was even more ethereal, and Tantai Lian, whose face was slightly red, had both excited and a trace of bashfulness in their eyes. Their gazes towards Chen Hao were a little evasive, as if they weren't used to this sudden reunion. It's a small matter. In a moment, I'll go back and eat some spirit medicine and it'll be as good as new. What's wrong, little Wu, little Yen, after not seeing each other for 2 years, are you shy? Chen Hao said with a slight smile. Of course not. Helian Wuzi said, you're making such a big scene, many people are looking at us. At this moment, the 4 of them were already surrounded by Huyan Aobua and the others. No monsters could get close. However, no matter if it was Qin Shui or the sisters, they all pricked up their ears and listened to the 4's conversation. Of course not. It's a pity that I only have one arm at the moment. Otherwise, I would at least give you a hug. Ha! Chen Hao's gaze swept across the 3 of them and said. In fact, this guy was also a little embarrassed in his heart. After all, this was the beast tide. Of course, if Qin Shui wasn't present, it would definitely be much better. As for the sisters, Chen Hao didn't have any psychological pressure at all. After a brief exchange of words, the 4 of them didn't want to show off too much in front of so many people. Soon, the battle began. While fighting, Chen Hao introduced Huyan Aobua and the others to the 3 girls. After introducing everyone, he introduced Qin Shui, whom the 3 girls had long heard of but had never seen before. Qin Shui, the 3 girls easily accepted. After all, Chen Hao had already given them a heads up. As for the beautiful sisters, Chen Hao only vaguely introduced them for the time being and did not say much. About an hour later, the sealing enchantment of the supply station was opened. Countless cultivators who had exhausted too much energy flew into the supply station. Although Chen Hao and the others didn't consume much energy and performed very bravely, their injuries had not fully recovered. Especially Leng Ninghuan, Meng Shiyao, and Chen Hao, who was missing an arm. Coupled with the arrival of the 3 girls and the fact that the beast tide wasn't much of a challenge at this moment, everyone also flew into the supply station. Brother Chen, I'm sorry just now. I've heard Master and the 3 junior sisters mention you many times. I've long heard of your name, but I've never had the chance to meet you. I'm Yun Feiyang. When Chen Hao and the others had just climbed up the city wall, more than 20 disciples of Yunwei Hall quickly rushed over. The disciple who shouted at Chen Hao just now clasped his fist and said to Chen Hao. Brother Chen, I'm Duan Shuilu. Nice to meet you. Brother Chen, cough cough. You don't have to be so polite. Thank you for taking care of Xiao Wu, Xiao Yan, and Yu Yu. Chen Hao was a little dumbfounded. He thought that he would encounter a few love rivals, but he didn't expect that these guys, regardless of whether they were men or women, looked at him with very friendly eyes with a trace of faint admiration. This made him feel a little strange. Little guy, long time no see. At this moment, Senior Immortal Yun Wei, who had arrived a long time ago, quietly appeared in front of Chen Hao and the others. The graceful Senior Immortal Yun Wei's face was brimming with a kind smile as if she was an elder meeting a junior. It was natural. Greetings, Master. Seeing the familiar female Senior Immortal, everyone immediately clasped their fists and saluted. Chen Hao also clasped his fists and saluted with the others. He also called her Master. No need to be so polite. Senior Immortal Yun Wei said with a smile. She was obviously very satisfied with Chen Hao calling her Master. She stared at Chen Hao and said, in more than 2 years, although your cultivation level is not that high, your combat strength is still so outstanding. It's really rare. I heard that there was a beast tide in the supply station of Dian City, so I was worried that you might not be here. I didn't expect to find you here when I arrived. Fortunately, Senior Immortal Han Mei arrived early. Is your arm okay? It's okay, it's okay. Senior Immortal Han Mei has already given me the elixir, but I haven't had the time to take it. Thank you for your concern, Master. Oh. Then I don't need to give it to you. Palace Master Han Mei, long time no see. At this moment, Senior Immortal Han Mei also arrived in front of everyone. Senior Immortal Yun Wei hastily clasped her fists and greeted Han Mei. Long time no see. Your 3 disciples are not bad. Senior Immortal Han Mei glanced at Senior Immortal Yun Wei before sizing up Helian Wuzi, Tan Tai Lien, and Xia Yuyu. You're flattering me. Compared to your precious female disciple, they're just about the same. For now, they're still slightly inferior. Senior Immortal Yun Wei said with a smile. Although the two of them were complimenting each other, everyone could feel that something was wrong. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 432. Go and rest. The strength of today's beast tide is not a threat to you, especially little Hao and little Shui. You too. Venerable Han Mei looked at Qin Hao and Qin Shui with a gentle gaze. You too go and rest as well. Perform well tomorrow. Especially you, little Wu. You have to comprehend the use of the power of reincarnation. Venerable Yun Wei said with a smile. Yes, how could Qin Hao not dodge when the immortals were bickering? Especially from the looks of it, it seems like it was because of him. His face is really big. Qin Shui, Helian Wuzi, and the other two were also quite embarrassed. They haven't even started fighting, why did the elders start? This is really the case of the emperor not being anxious, but the eunuchs are. After arriving at the palace, Helian Wuzi, Xia Yuyu, and Tan Tai Lien naturally followed Qin Hao and the others. Huyan Aobua and the others consciously avoided them and entered their own rooms. Under Qin Hao's signal, the 2 beautiful sisters also took their leave. Only Qin Hao, Qin Shui, and the 3 girls stayed in the hall of the palace. However, Huyan Aobua and the others all pricked up their ears. Unfortunately, Qin Hao directly laid down a barrier, so everyone could only obediently enter the cultivation room to recuperate and heal their injuries. After not seeing each other for more than 2 years, Qin Hao naturally couldn't help but ask about each other's experiences. The 3 girls' experiences were the same as Qin Shui's. When it was the 3 girls' turn to ask about Qin Hao's experience, Qin Hao scratched his head and looked at Qin Shui. Little Shui, why don't you tell me about it? Why do you want me to tell you? If you dare to do it, then you must dare to admit it. Tell me yourself. Cough cough. You see, I'm still a one-armed hero. It's settled then. Anyway, you already know about my experience. I'll go and recover first. Oh, right, let's get to know each other formally. Hiss. After Qin Hao finished speaking, he didn't allow Qin Shui to refuse and directly entered her room. It must be Leng Ning Huan and Leng Ning Lu. You can tell just by looking at him. Helian Wuzi, who was as cold as the moon, rolled her eyes at Qin Hao's room and said. You can't blame him. You left early. I was with him for a period of time. A year ago, I was brought to the limitless immortal palace by my mother. It was the day before yesterday that I met up with him in Songyuan City. Qin Shui said helplessly. Then he talked about Qin Hao's experience during this period. He highlighted the main point and told them about how the beautiful sisters had saved Qin Hao's life, which made the 3 girls feel a little better. Phew! After entering the cultivation room, Qin Hao's powerful soul perception locked onto the 4 women's conversation. Since he was the one who had set up the barrier, it naturally wouldn't affect him. Seeing that Qin Shui had settled everything for him, he let out a long sigh of relief. He took out the pill that Venerable Han Mei gave him and swallowed it. Hiss, 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 as soon as the pill entered his stomach, it immediately surged with heat. In an instant, Qin Hao felt that his blood was circulating crazily. At the moment when his right arm was cut off, all the blood in his body surged towards his right arm as if it had found a vent. But miraculously, a powerful medicinal power blocked the blood and didn't leak out from the wound. Instead, it accelerated the growth of his flesh and blood by several times. He, who possessed the immortal bloodline, was already recovering slowly. At this moment, with the effect of the medicinal power, he didn't need to do much and began to recover at an astonishing speed. According to Venerable Han Mei, it would take 4 hours for a severed finger to regrow. But after only half an hour, Qin Hao's right arm had completely grown out. It was no different from before, and the strength of his flesh and blood didn't weaken at all. Phew! The harvest this time is huge. It seems like I'm about to break through. Old God, let me cultivate first, then we'll merge. All right. 4 hours later, Qin Hao's cultivation room had a wave of dense energy in advance. He, who was in the late primordial soul stage, had finally succeeded in advancing to the peak of the late primordial soul stage. But this wave of dense energy did not end. Pieces of top-grade primordial crystal stones were consumed at an astonishing rate of 2 per 10 minutes. After another 8 hours, the dense energy that enveloped Qin Hao finally dissipated. Phew! Qin Hao let out a long breath and opened his eyes. Crackle, crackle, crackle. With a light shake, countless crisp explosive sounds rang out around his body. A power that would make an early-stage creation stage expert tremble in fear suddenly emanated from Qin Hao's body. Half-step to creation stage is actually so strong. The increase in strength from the late primordial soul stage to the peak of the late primordial soul stage is very limited. But at half-step to creation stage, it can be considered an increase in the realm. My body is at least 30% stronger, and my inner yuan has increased by more than 40%. Moreover, I can feel that I haven't completely digested the gains from this life-or-death situation. Not only Qin Hao, but even Huyan Albua and the others were in a state of extreme surprise and joy at this moment. Qin Hao thought to himself, if I advance to the blessed realm, my will of the sword Tao and the various laws of heaven and earth that I've comprehended will increase by a realm. With my physical body and soul, it won't be a problem for me to trigger the heavenly punishment, but it's still better for me to stabilize my realm. This beast horde will last for at least a month. The first 10 days should be the best time for me to train. This beast tide could be at level 11. The higher the level of the beast tide, the longer it would last. Moreover, the monsters near the supply station would continue to grow stronger as time passed. This was undoubtedly the best opportunity for training. Old God, let's begin. Yes. Rumble, as the old god spoke, Qin Hao's mind directly exploded. Fuck, in that instant, Qin Hao directly cursed. He had not expected the fusion this time to be so violent. The old god did not give him any hints and directly threw a bomb into Qin Hao's soul palace, causing Qin Hao's soul to almost leave his body. Guard your mind. This fusion will be more painful than any before. This is just the appetizer. Appetizer? Damn it, bring it on. Chi. 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 In the next moment, rays of 7-colored light rose from Qin Hao's body, but Qin Hao's entire body trembled violently. His brows were deeply furrowed, his teeth were tightly clenched, and cold sweat broke out. This was not physical pain, but pure pain that came from the depths of his soul. Qin Hao felt as if his soul was being bitten by thousands of ants as the old god's aura crazily drilled into it. This kind of pain was far beyond Qin Hao's imagination. It was 100 times, 1,000 times more terrifying than the first soul awakening or any of the heavenly punishments. Even with Qin Hao's tenacious nerves, he wished he could die, but his mind was still clear, and as time passed, his senses became sharper and clearer, directly causing this kind of pain to become more and more intense. Time passed minute by minute, second by second. Qin Hao completely forgot the concept of time, feeling as if millions of years had passed. Finally, just as Qin Hao was about to collapse, the pain suddenly disappeared completely. Phew! The fusion is a success. I didn't expect your endurance to be so strong. You didn't even faint, hee. This fusion is perfect, more perfect than any of my previous masters. The old god's words reverberated in Qin Hao's mind, obviously with a trace of surprise and admiration. Qin Hao's entire body trembled like a sieve for a full 2 minutes before he calmed down and said, Old God, will the fusion in the future be so painful? How can that be? It's only this step that's so painful. It's okay, it's okay. In the future, every time I fuse, the pain will increase by about 10 times, damn, hee, you can temper the 5 elements sword first. When you see the effect, you will feel that everything is worth it, clang. An hour later, a clear and melodious sword cry abruptly sounded out, and Qinhao opened his eyes with a pleasantly surprised expression. The 5 elements sword exuded a cold aura. Whether it was the shape or the quality, it had improved countless times. This is the upper-grade spirit treasure. Purely based on the quality of the sword body, it barely reaches the middle-grade spirit treasure. However, the materials we fused are all the top materials in the world. Although the formation is not the strongest, it is the most suitable for you now. It is stronger than the upper-grade spirit treasure that you bought. The old god said, this is also the benefit of tempering your own life source magic treasure, that's true. Qi. Qinhao casually sent out a sword. A sword light easily left a deep sword hole on the wall of the cultivation room. When Qinhao looked at the mark on the wall, he was a little dumbfounded. On the other side of the wall, there was a scream from Qin Shui. It's so easy to break through. Little Shui, I didn't do it on purpose. Qinhao put his face close to the hole in the wall and said to Qin Shui next door. Their rooms were next to each other. The cultivation room was only separated by a 1-foot thick wall. This wall was not only made of special materials, it also contained a powerful rune protection. However, Qinhao casually sent out a sword and pierced it. If this was in the past, Qinhao would not be able to do it unless he relied on the carving technique. Your sword? Qin Shui asked in surprise. She had sensed the incomparably sharp sword qi. Naturally, she knew that Qinhao had pierced the wall during the sword test. Shu, lower your voice. This is my secret. Don't tell anyone for the time being. Hee. Little Shui, tell me what you want to refine. I guarantee that you will be satisfied. You can refine any middle-grade spirit treasure. You can choose the style. Are you sure you are not talking about a middle-grade spirit treasure? Qin Shui asked in disbelief as her eyes widened in surprise. Of course I'm sure. It's a spirit treasure. How is this possible? Everything is possible. Alright, it's almost time. If you have recovered, let's go out first. They should be almost done. They are all waiting for you. Qin Shui said snappily. They are out. Remember, this time they killed 17 people from Limitless Demon Palace. You have every reason to take action. Move in batches. Don't let them see any clues. If they want to go deeper, it's naturally better. Yes. When Qinhao and the rest walked out of the palace area, Fan Suixin sent a message to the 5 groups of disciples on the city wall far away. Chapter 433. How is this possible? Fan Suixin had just finished speaking when his expression suddenly changed, revealing a look of extreme surprise. When he saw Qinhao and the others appear from afar, he did not think much of it. However, at this moment, he suddenly realized that apart from Helian Wuzi, Xia Yuyu, Tan Tai Lian, as well as Qin Shui, Jiang Hai, and Huang Wenxiu who were already at the half-step to the manifestation realm, Qinhao and the others had all broken through. Especially Qinhao, who was only at the late primordial soul realm when he returned the day before. Now, he had advanced to the half-step to the manifestation realm, directly advancing by 2 small realms. How was this possible? It was only a day. It was normal for them to advance by 1 small realm, but to advance by 2 small realms in a row was a little too exaggerated. Furthermore, Qinhao and the others had all advanced. If he had not seen this with his own eyes, Fan Suixin would never have believed this to be true. However, the truth was right in front of him. Wait. Fan Suixin was stunned for a moment before he suddenly transmitted his voice again. That Qinhao has advanced to the half-step to the manifestation realm in just 1 day. The others have also advanced to the late primordial soul realm and the peak late primordial soul realm. Chen Fei, Bu Yuan Shan, Chen Guang Yuan, the 5 of you will be divided into 5 groups, just in case. What you have to do is to kill them in one blow and not give them any chance to call for help. There must be no mistakes. Yes. The disciples of the Limitless Demon Palace's Heartbroken Hall responded in a low voice, but there was a trace of shock in their expressions. In particular, Soul Fighter, who was in the first group, was even more shocked. He had experienced Chen Hao's ability to challenge those of a higher level. When he was at the late primordial soul realm, he was able to fight evenly with him. How terrifying would the half-step to the manifestation realm be? Fortunately, Fan Suixin had arranged for a nameless peak late manifestation realm expert, which made him feel much more at ease. Little brother Chen Hao, just as Chen Hao led the group up the city wall and waited for the next opening of the seal, a gentle voice suddenly sounded in Chen Hao's mind. Is it Senior Meng Yichong? And, did you guys have a conflict with the disciples of Limitless Devil Palace? Meng Yichong said, yesterday, when Fan Suixin, the palace master of the Broken Heart Hall of the Limitless Demon Palace, arrived, I overheard him talking with his disciple, Mo Wuxin. According to Mo Wuxin, your Aotian Immortal Palace ambushed them and killed 17 genius disciples. Due to my status, it's inconvenient for me to say too much to the 2 immortal venerables of the Limitless Immortal Palace. If you want to go out and fight against the Beast Tide, you must be careful. It's best not to leave the sight of the 2 immortal venerables. Are they going to make a move? Chen Hao stared at the densely packed monsters outside the city wall and calmly transmitted his voice. That should be the case. They are all in the Blessed Realm, and there are also those in the late stage of the Blessed Realm. Cough cough, there are also those at the peak of the late stage. If my guess is correct, they will lure you in. They can't directly attack near the city wall, but it's hard to say if they are far away. Remember. Alright, thank you for your reminder, Senior Meng. I'm really sorry, I was injured yesterday and didn't have time to thank Senior for your help. You're welcome. A genius like you is the hope of the boundless world. This is what I should do. Meng Yichong, who was standing far away, smiled when he heard Chen Hao's words. Obviously, he was very satisfied with Chen Hao's courteous words. By doing so, he had already violated the Alliance's agreement not to participate in any power struggle. Originally, he had no intention of violating it. Otherwise, why didn't he tell Senior Immortal Han Mei and Senior Immortal Yun Wei yesterday? But now, he had told Chen Hao. The reason was very simple. In just one day, Chen Hao had advanced from the late stage of the primordial soul realm to the half-step to the blessed realm. This was absolutely incredible. In addition, Chen Hao had displayed a terrifying talent in the battle yesterday, which prompted him to make an exception for once. Because he thought it was worth it. Phew! After communicating with Meng Yichong, Chen Hao took a deep breath and stared at the monster tide outside the city wall. His eyes slowly narrowed, and 2 sharp and cold rays of light flashed in them. Soul Fighter, very good. Not only did you almost cause all of us to die, but you also inverted right and wrong. I want to see what tricks you can play. Right now, my combat power has definitely increased by more than 5 times compared to yesterday. As long as they are not monstrous geniuses in the middle or late stage of the Blessed Realm, I am not afraid. Even if they are at the peak of the late stage of the Blessed Realm, I still have the power to fight. And in this monster tide. The corners of Chen Hao's mouth curled into a faint evil smile. Cough cough. Boss, what's wrong with you? At that moment, Huyan Albua, who still had some special feelings for Chen Hao, coincidentally, saw the evil smile on Chen Hao's lips and could not help but ask. After a year of interacting with each other, he and his brothers and sisters had a rather thorough understanding of Chen Hao's temperament, at least on the surface. What did this signature evil smile mean? It meant that someone was going to suffer. It's nothing. These bastards almost killed us. As your boss, I can't wait to rush in and kill them all. Chenhao stared at the monsters outside and said with a murderous look. Oh. I thought it was something else. Huyen Aobo said with a smile. Don't make a sound. When we go out later, all of you will stay near the city wall and form a battle formation. Little Shui, Little Wu, Yu Yu, Little Yan, Jiang Hai, Wen Su, all of you will cooperate with their battle formation. Although the monsters are a little weak now, they can train our tenacity and will. Others take 2 hours, but I want all of you to last a day. Also, if I don't come back before dark, don't wait for me. Go back and recover first. Ah. What are you going to do? Chen Shui remained motionless, but she frowned and asked directly through voice transmission. Nothing much, just play with the trash from Limitless Demon Palace. Don't worry, with my current strength, no one can do anything to me unless they're at the deity stage. Back then, when I was at the early stage of the primordial soul stage, I lasted 3 days and 3 nights in the monster tide. If there's really danger, I'll contact all of you and ask your mother or Master Yunwei to help. Don't worry. Everyone wanted to go with Chenhao, but they were all rejected by Chenhao in a domineering manner, so they could only give up. Even Chen Shui knew that she couldn't help in the face of an expert at the middle stage, late stage, or even the peak of the late stage. This made Chen Shui and the others feel very helpless. They had been working hard and cultivating crazily, but in front of a monster like Chenhao, they couldn't get close to him, let alone surpass him. Chenhao didn't know that his decision this time had a great impact on Chen Shui, who was eager to be strong and sincerely loyal to him. It also made Chen Shui make a ruthless decision. Let's go. Hiss, 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 hiss. Less than an hour later, the Guardian restriction was activated. Countless Guardian groups and Guardians immediately turned into streams of light and rushed out of the Guardian restriction, merging into the dense beast tide. Chenhao and the other 19 people also made their appearance. Compared to the day before, there were several times more cultivators who came to supply point 160 today, and there were countless experts. Nothing much happened when they were on the city walls, but the moment Chenhao and the others made their appearance, they attracted the gazes of countless cultivators. Most people were attracted by the beauties, but there were a small number of cultivators who had seen Chenhao and the others the day before, and they sucked in sharp breaths of air in shock. Buzzing discussions erupted sporadically from the people who knew Chenhao and the others. Then, like a whirlwind, they swept through the front of the city walls in that direction. The words group leveled up and leveled up by 2 stages in a row became the most frequent words. Chenhao and the others also became the focus of most people on the city walls. No one noticed that 5 squads made up of people at the beginning stage, middle stage, and later stage of Blessed Realm, as well as one at the peak of the later stage, had also fused into the monster tide tens of thousands of feet away from the spot where Chenhao had entered the monster tide. In just a few minutes, the 5 squads formed a semicircle with their great strength. None of the people in the 5 squads wore the symbol of the faction they belonged to, and they had also deliberately changed their appearances. With just one glance, anyone could tell that they were trying to hide their true identities. However, this sort of situation was very normal in the cultivation world, and no one found it strange. Besides, the 5 squads acted as if they did not know each other. Due to their great strength, they jumped around and picked up the high-grade monsters around them to kill. This sort of situation was equivalent to blocking all the powerful monsters around Chenhao and the others. Because of it, once Chenhao and the others killed a wave of monsters close to them, they no longer had any Blessed Realm monsters to kill. Damn it, there's no challenge at all. Brothers and sisters, I'm going to go deeper and have some fun. What about you? More than 10 minutes later, Chenhao's punches and kicks reduced the monsters around him to ashes. His expression seemed to become more and more gloomy, as if he was using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. He looked very unhappy. His voice was not very loud, but it was definitely loud enough for everyone to hear. Ahem. Boss, didn't we say that we were going to train our tenacity, willpower, and teamwork in battle formations? That's our biggest weakness. Fuck, then continue. I can't hold it in anymore. There's no challenge at all. I'm going to have some fun. Shick. Chen Hao cast a disdainful glance at the crowd before he ran away from the city in a frenzy. What great combat power! He's really awesome. Of course. Yesterday, when he was at the later stage of the Essence Soul Realm, he displayed strength that was no weaker than an elite at the early stage of Blessed Realm. He might even have been at the middle stage. And he was injured yesterday. He even lost an arm. Which faction's genius disciple is he from? He should be from the Wuji Celestial Palace. Chen Hao was like a hot knife cutting through butter. He blasted the monsters into pieces with his violent and fierce punches and kicks as if he was venting his anger. When he ran toward the depths of the beast tide, the cultivators on the city wall, who had been watching them, suddenly started to talk about it. Venerable Han Mei and Venerable Yun Wei, who were sitting in a pavilion on the city wall, smiled when they saw Chen Hao's arrogance. Young men are full of vigor and vigor. This is how it should be. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 434. Keeping a low profile and forbearance were symbols of cowardice in the world of cultivation, especially to young geniuses. This was because it would destroy one's spirit and cause one to lose one's state of mind. Moreover, it involved the most elusive thing in the world, fate. The greater a person's fame and reputation, the greater the amount of luck and opportunities that a person could gather. This was also the real reason why most disciples were arrogant and condescending. Of course, this was also the most basic expression of human nature. It was just that most people could not really control the degree of it. Junior brother Wuxin, what should we do? When they saw Chen Hao charging into the depths alone, the 5 people with the highest cultivation in the 5 teams all sent telepathic messages to Wuxin. Their goal was to lure Chen Hao and the others into the depths. Once they were out of sight, they would kill them all at lightning speed. However, they did not expect that only Chen Hao would enter the depths alone. Furthermore, from their conversation, it seemed that those people had no intention of entering the depths because they wanted to train their coordination, tenacity, and willpower. One is good. The real culprit is this fellow. Moreover, he is the only one who can threaten me. If we can kill him, the others will not be a threat. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Wuxin said coldly. Let's go. Try to hide as much as possible. Don't let him see through our intentions. Okay. Although Wuxin's cultivation was the lowest among them, none of them dared to look down on him. After all, Wuxin's talent and potential were not something they could compare to. In Fan Suixin's words, Wuxin was a once-in-a-century genius in Broken Heart Hall. If there were no accidents, his future achievements would definitely surpass Fan Suixin, the hall master. Therefore, even though this group of people had a higher cultivation level than Soul Fighter, they were still very respectful and obeyed everything he said. 5 at the peak of the advanced stage of the creation realm, 5 at the advanced stage of the creation realm, 10 at the intermediate stage of the creation realm, and 5 at the initial stage of the creation realm, a total of 30 people. How can he resist such a powerful lineup? Not far from the city wall, Qin Shui, who was fighting with the others, used her powerful soul perception to follow Chen Hao's figure deeper and deeper into the city. She could clearly sense the 5 teams surrounding Chen Hao. Her beautiful face flashed with deep worry. Even though she knew that Chen Hao's combat strength was terrifying, Chen Hao had just advanced to half-step to manifestation. With such a huge difference in cultivation realm and numbers, how could she not be worried? If it wasn't for Chen Hao telling them not to tell Venerable Han Mei and Venerable Yun Wei, Qin Shui would have told her mother, this was too risky. After hesitating for a long time, Qin Shui finally chose to believe in Chen Hao. He didn't succeed in that adventure. That time, it wasn't as if she had turned something she thought was impossible into a possibility or a miracle. Perhaps this was the reason why she would never be able to catch up with him. Qin Shui sighed softly in her heart. Her eyes became firm as she retracted her soul perception and immersed herself in honing her combat skills. 5 at the peak of the advanced stage of the creation realm, 5 at the advanced stage of the creation realm, 10 at the intermediate stage of the creation realm, and 5 at the initial stage of the creation realm. They really think highly of me. Just as Qin Shui was hesitating, Qin Hao's eyes flashed with a hint of arrogance as he thought to himself. Fortunately, these people's talents can't be compared to Wu Xin's. Otherwise, there's really no way to deal with them. His powerful soul perception sensed the aura of Wu Xin and the others and the power they displayed as he estimated in his heart. Qin Hao knew that although he couldn't see their true combat strength, he could at least make a rough estimate, and that was enough. Although he was very confident, he wasn't so stupid as to fight with 30 people. If that wasn't courting death, then what was? Only an idiot would do that. Wu Xin and the others were thousands of feet away from Qin Hao. Under the cover of the chaotic aura of the monster horde, they believed that Qin Hao wouldn't be able to see through their scheme. And that seemed to be the case. It had to be said that although Wu Xin's talent and combat strength were powerful, his intelligence was really nothing much. To be more precise, he was a little brainless. If it was Qin Hao, how could he not think about how they had been discovered when they had followed Qin Hao and the others? And how had they been suddenly counterattacked? And how had they lost their puppet substitutes because of a sneak attack? Not fun at all. Damn it, I've advanced to the half-step to creation realm. Looks like my strength is boundless, ha ha ha. Boom. 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 Qin Hao's confidence swelled as he laughed loudly, accompanied by the sound of terrifying energy wreaking havoc. His voice was as arrogant as it could be, as arrogant as it could be. It's really strange. We've already gone 100 miles in, but there aren't even any decent monster commanders. How can those at the initial stage of the creation realm be enough? I'll continue to go deeper. Hee, that bullshit genius from Limitless Demon Palace, Wu Xin, almost killed me. If I meet him again, I'll make him cry for his father and mother. I'll beat him until his ancestors can't recognize him. Yes, it's best to castrate this bastard first, then make him eat shit and drink piss. Then find a few strong half-human half-beast men and make him feel like he's in heaven until he dies. Ha ha ha, Qin Hao was like a madman. As he crazily hunted monsters, he quickly went deeper and deeper. At the same time, his expression was ruthless and arrogant as he hooted as if there was no one around. The people from Limitless Demon Palace, who had formed a semicircle and maintained a certain distance from Qin Hao, had extremely strange expressions on their faces. This was especially so for the 5 people who were with Wu Xin. They were too embarrassed to even look at Wu Xin. What kind of person was this? Not only was he fighting alone to gain experience, he was also venting his anger like a lunatic. Not only was he venting his anger, he was even targeting Wu Xin. Who was Wu Xin? He was a super genius that only appeared once in 100 years in Broken Heart Palace. He was an existence that they had to curry favor with. When had anyone dared to curse and insult him behind his back? They could imagine how much Qin Hao's words would drive Wu Xin crazy. This brat is really a tragedy. Junior brother Wu Xin is probably going crazy from anger. Later, we have to be more careful when we attack. It's best if we injure him severely and capture him alive. Then, we can let junior brother Wu Xin vent his anger. Yes, we should. I think that brat's appearance is definitely handsome and elegant. If junior brother Wu Xin wants you to act as a strong half-human half-beast man, you should comply. Get lost. I don't like that. Ha. I can already see this brat's miserable appearance. But, to be honest, this brat's innate talent and battle strength are really terrifying. Damn it, he advanced 2 small realms in one day, but he's still only half-step to the manifestation realm. Look at his current battle strength. Even someone in the middle stage of the manifestation realm is not his match. It's also very difficult for someone in the late stage of the manifestation realm to kill him. Junior brother Wu Xin suffered a loss at his hands. Moreover, it's under the condition that his cultivation level is higher than his. You can imagine how terrifying this brat will be when he grows up. Yes, if that's not the case, do you think the palace master only wanted to vent his anger on junior brother Wuxin and the 17 dead junior brothers and sisters? Such a monstrous genius would be considered an outstanding existence even in the entire limitless devil palace. He's definitely more powerful than junior brother Wuxin. Yes. Hee, if we can kill such a monstrous genius, we can also earn a lot of fate. Of course. If junior brother Wuxin eats meat, it's enough for us to drink some soup. The two leaders of the two groups, who were at the peak of the late stage of the manifestation realm, had a good relationship with each other. They communicated through telepathy. Wuxin gritted his teeth and his face turned green. If it wasn't for the fact that he was still far away from the city wall and could not escape the control of the two palace masters of the limitless immortal palace, he would have immediately exploded. At this moment, he could only endure the anger of tearing Qinhao into pieces. There was no other way. If Qinhao asked for help at this moment, with the strength of Senior Immortal Han Mei and Senior Immortal Yun Wei, they would definitely be able to get the supply station's president to open the seal immediately. They would also be able to launch an extremely powerful attack without moving and save Qinhao. The terror of the Earth Immortal Realm was definitely not something they could compare with. Just like when Fan Suixin saved him yesterday, he was directly sucked into the city from 100 miles away. What kind of power was that? It's been almost an hour. Huyan Aobo and the others, who were fighting, could not fully engage in the battle. Even Helian Wuzi, Xia Yuyu, and Tantai Lian could not do the same. This was because they were all worried about Qinhao's situation. Their soul perception was far inferior to Qinhao's. They had already lost track of Qinhao's aura and could not sense what kind of lineup the limitless demon palace had sent. How could they not be worried? Or rather, how could they not be curious? After all, most of them had blindly chosen to believe in Qinhao. Open! Open! Finally, everyone could not help but open their psychic mirror and communication devices. Everyone present had already joined Ao Tian's guardian group. Moreover, when Qinhao refused to let them join him, he had also agreed to the condition that they were allowed to watch. This way, they would feel more at ease. Therefore, when everyone sent out the message to open their psychic mirror and communication devices, Qinhao also picked them up one after another. He separated a strand of his consciousness into the psychic mirror and communication devices. Everyone was watching Qinhao's every move as they fought. When Qinhao was like a madman, arrogantly scolding from time to time, Huyan Aobo and the other men, as well as Bai Xiaomei, who was even more manly than men, all showed expressions of admiration and worship. Jiang Hai and Huang Wenqiu, who did not know Qinhao very well, were a little confused and excited. They could not figure out what kind of image Qinhao had in their hearts. As for the sisters, Tan Hui and Meng Xiao, all three of them had funny expressions on their faces. However, Helian Wuzi, Xia Yuyu and Tantai Lian, who had not seen Qinhao for more than 2 years, were a little dumbfounded, dazed and embarrassed. Especially when Qinhao said that he wanted the half-human half-beast strong man and whatnot. Boring, split for me. Qi. Qinhao's body suddenly flashed, and in an instant, there were 5 of him. 4 doppelgangers and 1 original body. This is my limit. Come, let's compete with ourselves and see who can kill more. Ha ha ha. The 5 Qinhao laughed at the same time. The strength of each of their auras was exactly the same. The only difference was the attributes of the 5 elements. The 5 figures were of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth respectively. It was impossible to tell which was the original body and which was the doppelganger. Chapter 435. Chi. Following Qinhao's crazy words, the 5 figures suddenly spread out and rushed towards the depths. This, Qinhao's sudden action caused the people on both sides to express different opinions. Soul Fighter and the rest were shocked and had a headache. Huyan Aobo and the rest were only shocked. They did not know that Qin Hao could condense 4 doppelgangers. Seeing everyone's shocked expression, Qin Shui, who had activated the psychic mirror and communication device, frowned slightly. Only Qin Shui knew that Qin Hao used the 5 elements sword as the foundation to refine 5 doppelgangers. Including his original body, there should be 6. But now there were only 5. What did this mean? It meant that Qin Hao's original body had already hidden. In fact, it was only for a moment. Huyan Aobo and the rest had already seen the clues. Because the scene in the psychic mirror changed to 5 different directions and Qin Hao was rushing forward. They only saw the back view. The core of the psychic mirror, which should have been the main image of Qin Hao, was empty. There's no room for negotiation. Boss is definitely going to take them down one by one. Hee hee. That's too awesome. He actually has 5 clones. Moreover, the opponent definitely won't be able to distinguish the aura of these 5 clones. Otherwise, Boss wouldn't have done this, that's for sure. Sigh, we thought that Boss had no more secrets in front of us. Who would have thought that Boss was still hiding his unique skills? Damn it, I don't want to fight anymore. Why don't we go to the city wall and watch the show? Don't. I don't want to be beaten up. Boss told us to hold on for a day, see if I don't play you guys to death. Qin Hao, who had blended into the world, was like a fish shuttling between the monsters. He was full of ridicule as he sensed that the 5 teams had to be stretched to the sides as his 5 doppelgangers advanced in 5 different directions. At this moment, they were already more than 300 miles away from the city. Besides him, Soul Fighter and the others, they couldn't see any other cultivators. Moreover, the monsters could not sense his presence, so even though the monsters were densely packed, they were either chasing after his clone or approaching the supply station. Therefore, Qin Hao's state of being one with everything in the world was not very difficult. At most, it was a little more dangerous. This kid's doppelganger is so realistic. Which one is the real one? The one in the middle is most likely to be true. After all, once the doppelganger is too far away from the main body, it will lose control of his mind. He's not stupid, so he definitely won't use both sides. See, it won't be long before he'll be exposed. As Qin Hao transformed into 5 figures and dispersed into the depths of the beast tide, Soul Fighter and the others were having a discussion. Although they knew that the possibility of the middle was the highest, they couldn't completely rule out the possibility that Qin Hao was an idiot. Therefore, since they were already deeper in than Qin Hao, they could only follow Qin Hao's 5 doppelgangers and move further away. In their opinion, it wouldn't be long before Qin Hao's doppelgangers couldn't continue. After all, the distance between the doppelgangers and the main body couldn't be too far apart, especially in the midst of the beast tide. How can this be? After another quarter of an hour, Soul Fighter and the others became more and more puzzled and surprised. They were now more than 500 miles away from the supply station, which was close to the point where they could attack. However, Qin Hao's 5 doppelgangers were still spreading out, and the distance between them was increasing. Furthermore, the aura of each doppelganger didn't weaken in the slightest. Not only that, they were displaying amazing combat power in the midst of the beast tide. How could this be? Even if the main body is in the middle, at this moment, the doppelgangers are almost 200 miles away. How can he control them so well? Especially, these are 4 doppelgangers. 4 doppelgangers and the main body. Under such circumstances, one would have to multitask. Not many people could do this, not to mention that each of the doppelgangers was displaying great combat power. Not to mention, the distance between the doppelgangers was now 400 miles. In the eyes of Soul Fighter and the others, this was absolutely impossible. Don't worry, from now on, let's not kill any high-level monsters. I don't believe that he can still control them. Everyone, keep a good distance. The moment he retrieves his doppelgangers, it will be the time for us to surround and kill him. Alright, they must have psychic mirrors and communication devices. If I attack any team, I will definitely be discovered by the other teams. I need to keep a distance. Chen Hao silently moved through the monster horde that did not notice him and waited for the best time to attack. It had to be said that the presence of psychic mirrors and communication devices limited his ability to attack. Otherwise, the distance at this moment would have been sufficient. But now, he had to continue distancing himself. Fortunately, Chen Hao's 5 doppelgangers had the 5 elements sword as the body and the 5 divine beasts as the soul. The 5 divine beasts had been upgraded following the fusion with Chen Hao and Chen Hao's advancement. At this moment, the fusion between Chen Hao and Old God had advanced further, causing the 5 elements sword to be upgraded to a middle-grade spirit treasure. Moreover, it was an existence more magical and powerful than a superior-grade spirit treasure in this world. This also caused the 5 divine beasts to be upgraded directly. In fact, unlike ordinary doppelgangers, Chen Hao's 5 doppelgangers did not require Chen Hao to expend any energy at all. He only needed to maintain a trace of his mind. At this moment, the ones who were truly controlling the 5 elements sword were the 5 divine beasts. Which one of them was not an old monster with rich combat experience? Not to mention 400 miles, even if they were thousands of miles apart, there would be no problem. Another 15 minutes later, Chen Hao was already 50 miles away from the leftmost team. A monster in the initial stage of Blessed Realm suddenly let out a terrifying roar and a pained cry. Without any warning, it attacked the low-grade monsters around it violently. This lasted for a full half a minute before it calmed down, causing the monsters around it to tremble in fear. They did not understand what was going on. None of the monsters noticed that there was a bloodstain around a scale that was much larger than a wash basin on the back of the gigantic monster that was 100 feet tall. In truth, the scale had already fallen off and been placed on its back. Master, the possession is a success. Hee. I didn't expect that the power of my soul would be stronger than that of a monster in the initial stage of Blessed Realm. Alright, control it well. Just don't let the monsters sense anything unusual. I guarantee that I'll complete the mission. Hee. No one expected that the gigantic commander of monsters in the initial stage of Blessed Realm would instantly become Chen Hao's territory, and the monster's life force did not weaken at all. An army was trained for 1,000 days to be used in a single moment. Under Old God's training, Ito Ta finally began to show his worth. Chen Hao, on the other hand, had sneaked into the monster's enormous body without anyone noticing. If this had happened a day ago, Chen Hao would not have been able to do such a strange thing even if he was beaten to death. But now, it was easy for him. First, he used the soul-subduing art that Old God had taught him at lightning speed. He used a mental attack to numb the monster's soul for a short period of time. Then, Ito Ta executed the evil art of possession at lightning speed and approached the monster. At the same time, Chen Hao used his fastest speed to break through the monster's scales and crawled into its body. The 3 procedures were completed in one go, and there were no flaws. Even Chen Shui and the others, who saw that Chen Hao was awake through the spirit channeling mirror, did not understand what had happened. In an instant, the scene in the spirit channeling mirror turned into a small space that made them feel strange. Inside the monster's body. Roar! Ito Ta roared without restraint and vented. He had stayed in Chen Hao's mind for several years, and he had long been bored out of his mind. Although his body was only that of a monster at that moment, it still made him very excited. Unfortunately, even though his soul power had become much stronger under Old God's training and he could completely control the power of this blessed realm monster, he did not have any ultimate skills that he could use. First, the monster's physique and the way it circulated its energy was completely different from that of a cultivator. Second, aside from his soul power, he was originally just a low-level cultivator in the nascent soul realm. These were all things that did not make sense. Fortunately, his mission was very simple: another blessed realm monster is here. Let it go. When the team on the left saw the blessed realm monster controlled by Chen Hao, they immediately took a detour and avoided it. They wanted to leave it for Chen Hao's clone to enjoy. But strangely, the blessed realm monster bared its fangs and brandished its claws. It let out strange cries and charged at them. It had to be worth it. There was a distance of 100 miles between them. If there was no need, a monster commander with human intelligence would basically charge in the direction of the supply station. It would definitely not change its direction because they were 100 miles away. Moreover, when the 6 of them widened the area and made enough space for the monster to pass through, the monster charged straight at the weakest among them, who was in the initial stage of Blessed Realm. Bang, 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 the monster horde automatically avoided it. Ito-Ta controlled his body, and when there were no monsters obstructing him, he moved as fast as lightning. He traveled 100 miles in the blink of an eye. You're asking for death. The powerful fighter in the initial stage of Blessed Realm was restricted by the monster horde, and his movement speed was greatly limited. At that moment, it was clearly too late for him to avoid the monster in the initial stage of Blessed Realm. With a furious roar, he attacked violently. It was just a monster commander in the initial stage of Blessed Realm. He did not care about it at all. In his eyes, the monster had come to die. The other 5 people who were far away and formed a semicircle with Qinhao's clone still maintained a certain distance from it. They also did not care about it. They just felt that the monster was a little too abnormal. However, roar. Boom. The monster let out a furious roar that reverberated through the world. Its huge body instantly charged into the air and pressed down on the powerful fighter in the initial stage of Blessed Realm like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey. It completely ignored his violent attacks. No matter who it was, the monster was doomed. Die, idiot. Shik. The monster's huge palms swiftly spread open in an agile manner. At the instant its body was struck by the cultivator's violent energy, it released an incredibly fierce and extremely condensed energy. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 436. Ah! A pained scream erupted from the cultivator's mouth. At that moment, he felt a bone-chilling cold. Unfortunately, even though he thought that victory was already in his grasp, he could not react in time. He felt a chill at the center of his brows, and he saw the monster's gigantic body being torn to shreds. His eyes widened, and they were filled with terror and terror. How is this possible? That was the last thing he thought. What? The other 4 people in the group did not expect such an outcome. Besides, they did not have time to save the cultivator. He was actually killed by a monster in the initial stage of Blessed Realm. How is this possible? The 4 of them could not understand. Roar. What shocked them even more was that at this moment, the monster whose skin and flesh were lacerated actually let out a furious roar and stood up violently. Raging flames surged around its body, and the huge injuries that its body had received also began to rapidly recover. A mutated monster. Fuck. Junior brother Yang, go and kill it. Take revenge for junior brother Zhang. After a brief moment of shock, the leader of the group, an elite at the peak of the later stage of Blessed Realm, ordered with a sullen expression. Understood. The person called Junior Brother Yang was an elite at the middle stage of Blessed Realm. He was also the person closest to the person who was killed. In their eyes, even if it was a mutated monster, he would be enough to kill it. After all, the person was already dead. They could not allow a dead person to disrupt their footwork. It was enough to have one person kill the monster and take care of its remains. But, 10 minutes later, the faces of the people in the group were ashen. They could no longer care about anything else and charged at the mutated monster. Because the second elite at the middle stage of Blessed Realm did not follow in the footsteps of the first. What happened over there? The other 4 groups only noticed the abnormality at that moment, and they asked one another. Fuck, we ran into a mutated monster here. Gong Changsan and Yang Si, those 2 idiots died because they were careless. What? A mutated monster. I'll go and kill it first. It won't affect us. Roar. When the remaining 4 furious experts rushed over, the mutated monster raised its head to the sky and let out a terrifying roar. However, before the 4 experts could reach it, the monster tore apart the corpses of the 2 experts and stuffed them into its bloody mouth. No one noticed that a figure that was hidden in all things in the world had quietly left. When the 4 of them arrived, they were all furious and attacked violently. No matter how strong the monster was, it was directly turned into a cloud of blood mist. It couldn't be more dead. Damn it, they can only blame themselves for being too careless. Their team's communication is only established between the 5 leaders. The team's communication is also locked onto the team leader. Then let's do it one by one, one by one. The formless Chen Hao's handsome face flashed with a touch of coldness and arrogance, filled with endless killing intent. Regardless of whether it was the main culprit or an accomplice, he never knew what mercy was for lowly people who wanted to kill him. Just like when he killed the 30 peerless geniuses in the South Sea Islands, there was nothing he didn't dare to do. Even if the opponent this time was a colossus like the limitless Demon Palace, he didn't have any scruples. Although he knew that if he did so, it would be very troublesome and even dangerous in the future. Hiss. Silently shuttling through the group of monsters, Chen Hao rushed to another team. The nightmare began to envelop the disciples of the limitless Demon Palace. Through the psychic mirror, Chen Shui and the others who were watching Chen Hao's every move were a little sluggish. When Chen Hao was inside the monster's huge body, they couldn't figure out what their surroundings were. However, when Chen Hao attacked from inside the monster's body and suddenly appeared, and when the monster's body broke open to look outside, they understood what was going on. However, no one could figure out how Chen Hao had done it. But what happened next was even more shocking. In less than 15 minutes, the second squad ran into a mutated monster again. The weakest among them, who was at the initial stage of Blessed Realm, was killed by the mutated monster. With their previous experience, this time, the leader of the squad sent 2 middle-stage Blessed Realm fighters to charge forward. In the end, the 2 middle-stage Blessed Realm experts died, and the mutated monster died together with them. This caused the people from Limitless Demon Palace to feel a little uneasy. Soul Fighter was called to the side of the disciple with the highest cultivation in the team. He was afraid that Soul Fighter would also run into a mutated monster. This monster horde is a little strange. In less than an hour, 2 mutated monsters appeared, and they're extremely powerful. Junior brother Soul Fighter, I don't think we can wait any longer. If we continue to go deeper, if we run into a mutated monster in the middle stage or later stage of Blessed Realm, we might all die. Yes. The one in the middle is most likely to be his real body, so let's take care of it. The other 4 will be left to the 4 of you. We'll approach at the same time and disguise ourselves to form a team with him. We'll try to attack at the same time and don't give him any chance to call for help. Otherwise, at this distance, I'm afraid we won't be able to stop the 2 immortal supremacies from the limitless Immortal Palace from coming to rescue him. Soul Fighter said coldly. He did not expect Chen Hao's luck to be so good. He thought that by letting the powerful monsters pass, Chen Hao's real body would be exposed. But now, before Chen Hao's real body was exposed, 5 of them had already died, understood. The 5 of us are at the peak of the late stage of Blessed Realm. Do you think we can make him do anything? Let's go. Hiss hiss hiss. At this moment, the 5 teams immediately surrounded Chen Hao's 5 doppelgangers. Doing so was very risky. It was not that they were taking a risk, but that Chen Hao had discovered them. If he saw their purpose and directly called for help, then their operation would be in vain. After all, they were only 1,000 miles away from the supply station. With the abilities of the 2 celestial paragons, they could arrive in the blink of an eye. Fortunately, as they approached without any purpose, Chen Hao's 5 doppelgangers did not react even though they had clearly discovered them. They continued to execute their own ultimate techniques and madly killed the monsters around them as they continued to venture deeper. It had to be said that Chen Hao's strength had already shocked all of them to the point that they could not be any more shocked. It was already unbelievable that Chen Hao alone could be so strong, but it was even more unbelievable that he could still maintain his strength after splitting into 5 doppelgangers. You can't hold on anymore. Chen Hao wanted to kill a few more, but when he sensed their movements, he knew that the possibility of him killing them one by one with the mutated monsters was not high. Killing 5 people in a row, 2 in the early stage of Blessed Realm and 3 in the middle stage of Blessed Realm, seemed easy, but Chen Hao had used up a lot of energy. Moreover, Chen Hao knew that this was the result of a sneak attack. If he had fought them head-on, it would have been impossible for him to have such an effect. Split up. After thinking about it for a moment, Chen Hao sucked in a deep breath and made a decision. Suddenly, the 5 doppelgangers changed their direction and spread out to the sides at an even greater speed. Chen Hao hid in the body of a monster in the early stage of Blessed Realm and approached the group furthest to the side without any obstructions. Fuck, another mutated monster. Chen Hao had already killed 2 people in the furthest left group, so there were only 4 people left. With their previous experience, when they saw the monster commander in the early stage of Blessed Realm charge toward one of them at a terrifying speed without any obstructions, the other 3 instantly roared in anger. I'll kill it first. Shik. Since the 4 of them wanted to surround and kill Chen Hao, they were not very far away from him. When they saw the monster's abnormal actions, how could they dare to let one of them face him? The elite at the peak of the later stage of Blessed Realm instantly turned into a stream of light and charged through the layers of monsters. Hiss. Roar. When the monster was only 1,000 feet away from the cultivator, and the elite at the peak of the later stage of Blessed Realm was only 3,000 feet away from the monster, no one knew that Chen Hao and Itoda had already left without a sound. The monster, whose soul had suddenly returned to its body, let out a furious roar at the sky, venting the endless frustration it had just felt. Die for me. Shik shik shik. Rumble, roar, the monster, who had just gotten a breather, did not expect that it would be greeted with a violent attack from an elite at the peak of the later stage of Blessed Realm. It did not even have time to react before it was reduced to ashes. Amazing, senior brother Zhao is really... A martial artist in the later stage of Blessed Realm was cheering for his senior brother, but before he could finish his sentence, his voice came to an abrupt halt. His head exploded like a watermelon, and a terrifying explosion followed. When the people from Limitless Demon Palace reacted, they saw many monsters fighting over the elite at the late stage of Blessed Realm. What's going on? What's going on? All of them widened their eyes in shock as they stared at the scene in the mediumship mirror. Chills ran down their spines. Ah! Immediately after, when everyone's attention was attracted by the elite who had suddenly died, a shrill scream of pain rose into the air. Another elite at the middle stage of Blessed Realm had his heart pierced through by an extremely terrifying and fierce power. In just a moment, 2 people had died. The first was Chen Hao using the crowd's mentality to create a diversion. The second person had died completely due to shock, and chills running down his spine. That was all. It seemed simple, but to Chen Hao, it was a great risk. If there was even the slightest mistake, he would be exposed. Hence, when he attacked twice, not only did he have to hide in the world, he also had to use dark energy to envelop his body at the moment he attacked so that the enemy's mediumship mirror could not see him clearly. Once he was discovered, he would not be able to continue with his sneak attack. There's an elite. There's definitely an elite. At that moment, as long as they were not idiots, they would know that they had been ambushed by an elite. When they thought about the situation with the mutated monsters, their hearts turned cold. There was no doubt that the so-called mutated monsters were completely under the control of an elite. Chapter 437. Everyone, be careful. It's Wuji Immortal Palace's ultimate concealment technique. Fuck. No wonder this brat dared to come out on his own. Kill. Kill him first. No matter what, we have to kill this brat. When Soul Fighter saw the fear in everyone's eyes, he made up his mind and roared directly into the communication device. If Chen Hao escaped this time, then the chances of finding and killing Chen Hao again would be very slim. The reason was simple. In the world of cultivation, aside from irreconcilable grudges such as the destruction of sects and clans, cultivators of all levels were restricted by the rules of the world of cultivation. Experts above the deity level could not attack those in the blessed realm. If Chen Hao, who was half-stepped to the blessed realm, was already so strong, what would happen if he stepped into the blessed realm? A hidden expert can't be that strong. Otherwise, why would he ambush us? Moreover, he's attacking those who are alone. Every team, gather together quickly and kill that brat's clone. Soul Fighter said coldly when he saw that everyone was still hesitating. All right. Hiss. Rumble. Rumble. At that moment, the group finally stopped hiding their auras and began to attack violently. They closed in on Chen Hao's clone as fast as lightning. Be careful. Follow me. There were only 2 people left in the team. The late-stage Blessed Realm expert who led the team cautiously said to the middle-stage Blessed Realm expert with a gloomy expression. Yes, cold sweat dripped down the middle-stage Blessed Realm expert's forehead. He could not hide the fear on his face even if he wanted to. He was extremely nervous, afraid that in the next moment, he would become the target of the expert who was hiding in the surroundings. Hiss. An imperceptible breeze drifted to the right of Chen Hao's clone, who was the closest to the 2-man team. Phew, Chen Hao, who was hidden in the world, let out a long sigh. Then, he took a deep breath. His aura was completely restrained at that moment. However, his mind had completely fused with every wisp of energy in his body. He was like a coiled dragon. It was fine if he did not move, but once he moved, it would definitely be an earth-shattering attack. Peak of the late stage of Blessed Realm. If I can kill him in one strike, then it's naturally good. If I can't, then I can only run. These few attacks have already consumed more than half of my true essence, but if I want to escape, it shouldn't be a problem. Chen Hao's eyes were like a venomous snake, staring at the 2 people who were quickly approaching. Die, brat. Chi 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 chi. Almost at the same time, Chen Hao's 5 doppelgangers were suddenly attacked by the number 1 experts of the 5 groups. They knew very well that since someone was hiding in the surroundings, Chen Hao would have sent out a call for help long ago if he wanted to. No matter what, in their opinion, this was going to be a difficult battle. Moreover, how many hidden experts did the other side have? This was not something they could have predicted. However, just as Soul Fighter had said, it would not be very strong. Otherwise, why not just start a war? Therefore, at this moment, their only goal was to use the most violent and powerful attack to kill Chen Hao in one strike. Regardless of whether it was the clone or the main body. Once they did this, it would be time for them to quickly leave. They did not have the guts to compete with an expert who was hiding in the surroundings. The enemy was in the dark while they were out in the open. It was really unwise, Hiss hiss hiss. At this moment, Chen Hao's 5 doppelgangers suddenly turned into 5 rays of light at the same time, as if they had disappeared into thin air. Soul Fighter, who was guarding the center like a national treasure, was extremely shocked when he saw Chen Hao's doppelgangers disappear. After all, according to his judgment, the doppelgangers in the middle were most likely Chen Hao's main body. But now, they had disappeared into thin air. What did this mean? It meant that these were really Chen Hao's doppelgangers and not the main body. Chi. But at this moment, the 2 groups were even more terrified. The Blessed Realm expert had launched his strongest attack at Chen Hao's doppelgangers, but Chen Hao's doppelgangers had disappeared into thin air. This was more or less what he had expected. After all, the doppelgangers that he was dealing with were not real. What really frightened him was the fierce and extremely condensed attack that suddenly came from the side. At this moment, his hair stood on end, and the energy around his body surged out with a force that could topple mountains and overturn seas. Boom! A terrifying explosion suddenly sounded. A figure was like a shooting star that streaked across the sky, disappearing in a flash. The moment he disappeared, he spat out a mouthful of blood and even sent several flying monsters at the late primordial soul realm flying. The expert at the peak of the late stage of the manifestation realm was also sent flying by the terrifying energy. A hole that was twice the size of a fist appeared beside his heart, and blood gushed out like a fountain. This was the first time he had been so close to death. If he had not been on high alert, the bloody hole would not have been beside his heart, but his heart. This was the result of him madly activating all his energy to defend himself in the face of death. He believed that even if they were to face each other head-on, such a fierce and condensed attack would still be able to severely injure him, let alone a sneak attack. The two most fatal parts of a cultivator were the head and the heart. The head was a fatal blow, but the heart depended on the situation. If the heart was completely destroyed in an instant, even a deity would find it difficult to save him, unless he had the undying bloodline like Chen Hao. Kill him. It's that brat, it's definitely that brat. Boom. 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 Figures quickly charged toward Chen Hao, who had only revealed himself for an instant. Unfortunately, they were too far away. There were hundreds of miles between them, and there was also a dense horde of monsters. No matter how fast they were, how fast could they be? Chen Hao was also severely injured. If it were not for the fact that the mid-stage Blessed Realm expert did not dare to attack, Chen Hao would definitely have been forced to reveal himself. But now, Chen Hao had taken advantage of the fact that the heavily injured peak Blessed Realm expert had yet to catch his breath to disappear into the horde of monsters. Chen Hao endured the churning of his organs and swam through the horde of monsters like a fish. Then, he worked together with the old god and Ito Ta to attack at the same time. Ito Ta possessed a monster at the late stage of the Essence Soul realm and made it his temporary safe haven. Moreover, he did not dare to move too violently. He controlled the monster and followed the horde of monsters in a rather hidden manner to approach the supply station. Phew. What a pity. If I had attacked the peak Blessed Realm expert from the beginning, I would have definitely succeeded. Chen Hao brought out a mutated immortal fruit that was worth cities from the monster's body and swallowed it. But I didn't dare to do this at the beginning. Being able to do this is already beyond my expectations. Chen Hao had just stepped into the half-step to Blessed Realm, and he could only truly verify his assessment of his strength through battle. If he had attacked the peak Blessed Realm expert at the beginning, he would have succeeded. But at that time, he did not dare to act recklessly. He could only start from the weakest. In the end, when he had no choice but to expose himself, he tried to attack the peak Blessed Realm expert. Unfortunately, due to his high vigilance, he was a little too slow and did not succeed. Moreover, the power of a peak Blessed Realm expert was not something Chen Hao could face head-on. 2 in the early stage of the Blessed Realm, 3 in the middle stage of the Blessed Realm, and 2 in the late stage of the Blessed Realm. That's not bad, right? Soul Fighter is lucky. If he had not been surrounded and protected in the middle, he would have definitely killed this brat first. Chen Hao circulated his true origin to heal his injuries as he thought to himself. At the same time, he used his powerful soul perception to sense the movements of Soul Fighter and the others. What made him feel slightly at ease, but also slightly disappointed, was that the group of people only killed a few monsters nearby before they gathered together. They did not care about killing the monsters and headed in the direction of the supply station. Obviously, they were frightened by Chen Hao's sneak attack. When they passed by the area where Chen Hao was hiding, Chen Hao really had the urge to attack again, but he had no choice but to suppress it. Not to mention that he was already injured. Even if he was in peak condition, he would not be able to escape even if he could kill one or even a few of them. Using his own life to exchange for the lives of a few dogs. How could he do such an idiotic thing? Ha ha ha. Kill them. Kill them all. At the foot of the city wall, Proud Heaven's guardian group, which had been the focus of countless people's attention, soon became lazy because of Chen Hao's departure. The speed at which they killed monsters also decreased greatly, which puzzled many people. All of them seemed to be in a daze, and no one knew what they were thinking. But when Chen Hao escaped into a monster's body and began to heal his injuries, all of them suddenly became energetic and in high spirits. Damn it, these beasts dare to make an enemy out of us? Die, die, die. One by one, they shouted excitedly and attacked violently. 7 of them, who were only half-step to the manifestation realm, had killed 7 of the enemy's experts. Even the last expert, who was at the peak of the late primordial spirit realm, almost died. How could this group of people not be excited by such a terrifying battle record? Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu broke out in cold sweat. They were glad that they had made a wise decision. If they had stubbornly gone against Qin Hao, they would not even know how they died. Realms were all fleeting clouds. Who would have thought that a half-step to the manifestation realm could kill someone at the late primordial spirit realm or even at the peak of the late primordial spirit realm? And the other party was a genius disciple of the limitless demon palace. At least, Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu had never heard of anyone in the limitless immortal palace who had this ability. What? When Soul Fighter and the others were about 300 miles away from the city wall, Fan Suixin, who had been waiting impatiently on the city wall, suddenly changed his expression when he saw Soul Fighter and the others. 7 people are missing. Do we have to sacrifice 7 people to kill that kid? Among this group of people, Fan Suixin only had a special connection with Soul Fighter. He had always been able to determine how deep Soul Fighter and the others had gone. But as for what exactly had happened, even he, an Earth immortal, could not sense it due to the interference of the seal of the supply station and the aura of the beast tide. But when he sensed that Soul Fighter had gone 500 miles, he concluded that he could kill Qin Hao. But he did not expect that it would take so long, and even more unexpected that 7 people had not returned. What did it mean if they had not returned? It meant that they had died. Chapter 438. Trash, what a bunch of trash. There are so many experts, but 7 of them were sacrificed just to deal with that kid. 2 of them are at the late stage of the manifestation realm. How can that kid be so strong? They must have underestimated him. Fan Suixin did not know that if he walked out of the VIP area on the city wall and looked back at the ranking pagoda tablet, he would be so angry that he would vomit blood. Phew! On the city wall, Meng Yicheng, who had been busy receiving the immortal venerables, heaved a long sigh of relief when he saw Soul Fighter and the rest approaching the city wall. This kid is really incredible. Although I don't know how he did it, it's a miracle that he killed 7 people who are far above him. Meng Yicheng was slightly excited. He was always paying attention to the names on the pagoda tablet. None of the dead people could escape his eyes. Soul Fighter and the rest had returned with their faces covered in dust. 7 of their names had disappeared from the pagoda tablet, but Qin Hao's name was still flashing on the tablet. With such talent and combat strength, we should definitely report this to the headquarters. Not long after Soul Fighter and the rest arrived at the city wall, a figure came out from the depths of the beast tide. The power that erupted from the figure was not strong, and the secret technique that he used was also very simple. However, the efficiency of this figure was terrifying. Every time he used a simple technique, a beast would fall. There was no exception. Trash. A bunch of trash. Crack. Bang. There was no need for Soul Fighter and the rest to report. Fan Suixin, who was sitting in the VIP room on the city wall, had the teacup in his hand turned into powder. The tea table in front of him was also turned into a cup. 7 people are dead, but this kid is still alive. How is this possible? Boss, come out with me later, Qin Hao said directly when he returned to the team. His body was stained with blood. Some of it belonged to the beasts, and some belonged to him. However, his injuries were nothing to him at the moment. However, the current battle was meaningless to him. Moreover, he needed to recover to his peak state to prepare for the next wave of challenges from Soul Fighter and the rest. After killing so many of their people, how could they possibly let the matter rest? Letting them train their tenacity was just an excuse, especially for Huyan Aobo and the others. In this 1 year, under his brilliance, they were not lacking in ruthlessness and determination. Especially after experiencing this life and death crisis, each and every one of them had astonishing gains. Of course, Chen Hao had his own reasons for calling everyone back. After the supply point protection barrier was activated, Chen Hao led everyone back to the supply station. Soul Fighter and the others also flew into the supply depot with ugly expressions on their faces. Apart from the looks in their eyes that made them want to strangle Chen Hao to death, they couldn't even let out a fart. They had to be prepared to be scolded by Fan Wuxin. "Boss, you are really too powerful, hee hee." After returning to the palace, Huyan Aobo and the others immediately praised him excitedly. "I was just lucky. In a one-on-one fight, I can barely fight against a master in the late stage of the manifestation realm. But if it's a sneak attack, even a master at the peak of the late stage of the manifestation realm won't be able to escape from me. However, as long as they are not idiots, I definitely won't have such a chance next time. Boss, Heartbroken Palace lost more than 20 genius disciples this time. Not to mention Soul Fighter, even their palace master, Fan Suixin, won't let us go. I think it's better to tell Venerable Immortal Han Mei and Venerable Immortal Yun Wei about this. Just this time, they sent so many masters. If we rely on ourselves, I'm afraid we won't be able to train in the future." Huang Wenqiu said. "Would their palace master, Fan Suixin, dare to attack us?" Chen Hao frowned. "That won't happen, but masters in the manifestation realm won't be a problem. This time, there were 30 of them. After knowing your strength, how many will they send next time? With the Limitless Demon Palace's methods, they will definitely do everything they can to get back at you. If you all join our Limitless Immortal Palace and train in the designated places, we won't be afraid of them. What I mean is, if we want to train freely in the future, I'm afraid we can't. Don't worry. They are only in the manifestation realm. As long as we all reach the manifestation realm, I don't believe they can take us down. We just have to endure for a while. Alright, next, we have to increase our strength with all our strength. This beast tide will last for at least a month. Originally, if our realms hadn't increased, the first 10 days would be more suitable for us to train. But now, we have to wait for at least 10 days before our battlefield. So, there are still 8 days left. Let's train with all our strength. I can feel that after going through the life and death crisis, all of us have gained a lot. Have you all not fully digested it?" Chen Hao casually changed the topic. "Yes. I have faint signs of breaking through to half-step to manifestation realm. I can feel that I only need to train for a few days to break through." Huyan Aobo said. "Me too. I've never felt it so clearly before." Meng Xiao said. Cough cough. "Looks like everyone has gained a lot. I thought I was the best. That's strange. Could it be, because of our blood oath?" Bailey Lianqing said. "It should be. The blood oath will connect our luck. We did it under the threat of life and death. None of us have any selfish motives. The effect should be better. Of course, for all of us to be like this, a large part of it should be because of Boss, right?" First King said. "This Boss influence is definitely there. There's also one more thing. I feel like we've entered the legendary demonic realm." Jiang Hai said at this moment. "That's right. It should be the demonic realm," Huang Wenqiu said. Both of them were direct disciples of the Limitless Immortal Palace. Their knowledge was definitely much better than Huyan Aobo and the others. Demonic realm? Chen Hao frowned slightly. The demonic berserk realm is an opportunity that is even rarer than enlightenment. It can only appear under the constant pressure of life and death situations. We've only heard Master talk about it occasionally. Once you enter this realm, your soul, body, state of mind, will, and so on will all receive astonishing improvements. I only need to cultivate for a while more and I'll be able to trigger the divine punishment." Jiang Hai, who was already half a step to the manifestation realm, said. "Me too. At most 2 or 3 months." Huang Wenqiu said. "I'm about the same." Chen Shui said softly. That should be it. Hearing Jiang Hai's words, Qin Hao thought for a while and said, all right, let's all cultivate. We'll start again in 8 days. Okay. What you're doing is very dangerous. After stepping into the cultivation room, Qin Shui came to the wall that Qin Hao had pierced through and said, Chi chi chi. Qin Hao quickly expanded the hole in the wall and went directly to Qin Shui's side. He held Qin Shui's waist and said, what's the danger? Don't be like this. Qin Shui hurriedly pushed Qin Hao away. What are you afraid of? Did anyone see, hee hee. Qin Hao held Qin Shui firmly. Qin Shui's face was flushed red and her expression was very strange. If you're not in danger, I'll feel better. But what about them? They don't have carving techniques. If they're surrounded, how can they escape? How can they escape? A late-stage manifestation realm expert is not someone they can fight against. Qin Shui said with a red face. She stopped struggling and did not dare to look at Qin Hao. Little Shui, you're a little strange today. What are you afraid of? Only with pressure will we have motivation. We just need to. Not everyone can be like you. You're simply fooling around. You want to hide such a big thing from me? Hiss hiss, mother. Qin Hao was suddenly embarrassed. He did not expect that Venerable Han Mei would come at this time and under such circumstances. Qin Hao felt like he was caught in the act. The hole in the wall was too eye-catching. Qin Shui lowered her head and pushed Qin Hao away. Her face was flushed red. Although she was shy, she did not seem to be surprised. Only at this time did Qin Hao vaguely understand why Qin Shui was a little strange. If you want their good, then leave it all to me. Your road is destined to be lonely. Venerable Han Mei looked straight at Qin Hao and said. That's right. Hiss. At this time, what made Qin Hao even more embarrassed was that Venerable Yun Wei suddenly appeared. Qin Hao was depressed. Damn it, Venerable Yun Wei is too shameless. She doesn't even leave me any privacy. Fortunately, it was only a hole today. If it was when I did that with little Shui, it would be terrible. Of course, Qin Shui seemed to know that Venerable Han Mei was coming, so that kind of situation would not happen. However, Qin Hao could not figure out why Qin Shui hid it from him. Little guy, you're a little biased. Venerable Yun Wei had a smile on her face as she looked at the hole in the wall and said, my 3 precious disciples have just met you. You don't even know how to be intimate with them. Cough cough. Qin Hao coughed awkwardly. How could he not understand the meaning behind Venerable Yun Wei's words? Venerable Yun Wei, this is not the time to be sentimental. I understand, I understand. This little guy's path is indeed destined to be lonely. As for your brothers and sisters, let me and Han Mei Immortal Venerable take turns to take care of them for you. Taking them with you, 1 is restricting yourself, and 2 is putting them in danger. With your talent, even my 3 precious disciples. And little Shui, they can't catch up to you. That's right. Although Venerable Han Mei was unhappy with Venerable Yun Wei's arrival, she could only choose to compromise and said, it's okay if you care about them. You can come and see them from time to time. If you really want to be with them, it's not good for you and them. Without you, they will develop better, but with you, they might die prematurely. Chapter 439. Ahem, your growth is destined to be filled with endless troubles because of your character and your luck. And your troubles are not something that they can face with you. At least now is not the time. This, they won't agree. Qin Hao said. They will agree. Xiao Shui, what do you think? Qin Shui nodded and stared at Qin Hao. Mother and Immortal Reverend Yun Wei are right. We will wait for you to reach the peak. Qin Shui's voice became softer and softer until it became a voice transmission. Me and them will be your cultivation companions. Although she was very shy, her beautiful eyes were staring straight at Qin Hao. Although the word, cultivation companions, was very soft, it revealed an incomparable firmness. This was the decision that Qin Shui made when she saw that Qin Hao was going to fight against 30 Creation Realm experts alone. Why did she risk her life to pass the level? It was so that she could be with Qin Hao. But when they were really together, she suddenly realized that the distance between her and Qin Hao had not shrunk, but increased. She thought of what her mother had said to her. Perhaps it was true, under Qin Hao's halo, their growth would definitely be fast, but it would inevitably affect Qin Hao. Moreover, their growth trajectory would also be affected by Qin Hao and completely changed. This was not what she wanted. Especially after Helian Wuzi and the other two arrived, she felt that she had lost herself. In fact, Helian Wuzi and the others had the same feeling. But I have. Qin Hao frowned and said, but he was interrupted again. No buts. It's settled. Xiao Yan and the other two will be fine. This time, they are only here to meet you. I can't let them follow you. Immortal Reverend Yun Wei said. Xiao Shui can talk to the others. There won't be a problem. Immortal Reverend Han Mei said. Qin Hao still wanted to say something, but in the face of the overbearing of the two immortal reverends, he hesitated for a moment and finally chose to compromise. While Qin Hao and the others were in a state of cultivation, Soul Fighter and the others had their heads lowered as they endured Fan Suixin's spittle and scolding in a huge palace in the depths of the residential complex. The old man was fuming with anger. He was someone who cared about his reputation the most. 17 of Soul Fighter's 18 men had already made him vomit blood. This time, he had personally arranged for so many experts in the manifestation realm, but he had lost 7 of them. Moreover, 2 of them were in the late stage of the manifestation realm. With such a huge loss, even he, the palace master, would not be able to explain it to the limitless demon palace. How could he not be angry? Trash, trash. I'm so angry. Tell me, what's going on? Soul Fighter and the others, who were as silent as cicadas in winter, only dared to make a sound when they heard Fan Suixin's words. They looked at each other, and in the end, it was Soul Fighter who told them what had happened. This time, even though Soul Fighter was very unwilling, he could only tell them everything about Qin Hao's abnormal and terrifying strength. When Fan Suixin heard that Qin Hao could manipulate the manifestation realm monsters to confuse them, and that he could make the peak of the late stage of the manifestation realm disciples unable to sense his concealment, his expression became extremely ugly. In particular, when the severely injured peak of the late stage of the manifestation realm disciples said that Qin Hao's attack power was so strong that even he would be injured if he faced it head-on, he was even more shocked. A half-step to the manifestation realm cultivator has such abnormal strength. Fan Suixin paced back and forth with a gloomy face. After a full half a minute, he suddenly looked at Soul Fighter and the others and said, if we didn't offend him at the beginning, it would have been fine. But now that things have come to this, we have to kill him at all costs. I'm afraid it's impossible here. Soul Fighter, take my token and find out everything about this kid. Whether you can kill him or not is also a test for you. I'll arrange 10 peak of the late stage of the manifestation realm for you. In addition, I'll give you the upper grade spirit treasure Heavenly Eye. It's up to you how to do it. Thank you, Master. 8 days later. Below the city wall, the monster tide within a few hundred miles had strengthened to the point that most of the monsters were at the peak of the late stage of the primordial soul realm or half-step to the manifestation realm. There was at least one monster in the early stage of the manifestation realm for every 100 monsters. After 8 days of seclusion, the members of Proud Heavens finally began to hunt. During this time, Qin Shui had already gathered Huyan Aobo and the others. Accompanied by 2 immortal primes, she told them her idea. After hearing the news, everyone's expression was solemn, but they all agreed without hesitation. They were not stupid. After this life and death crisis and the conflict with the limitless demon palace, they had already realized that they were not on the same level as Qin Hao. Although their realms were almost the same, the difference in their combat strength was too great. If they continued to follow Chen Hao, as Immortal Yun Wei said, they would be in danger. They might be able to survive this time, but what about the next time? Moreover, the reason they were able to advance in this crisis was not because of Soul Fighter and the others, but because of the powerful monster horde. The battle between Soul Fighter and the others and Chen Hao was completely beyond their level. They did not even have the right to participate. How could they improve? Fortunately, Chen Hao blocked it. And he blocked Chen Hao in a dangerous situation. If it were not for them, Chen Hao would definitely be able to escape easily. There was no doubt about that. This was also the most important thing. They would be a burden to Chen Hao. The endless wilderness was filled with an ancient and desolate aura. There were endless mountain peaks and overgrown old forests. It was so quiet that it was a little scary. Looking from afar, on many mountain peaks, one could see abandoned and dilapidated ancient palaces. These palaces were extremely large. Although they were dilapidated and had been there for tens of thousands of years, they still exuded the grandeur and vastness of the past. This was the area left behind by the ancient sects in the central continent. In addition to the foreign monsters and ancient fierce beasts, there were also countless broken mechanisms and restrictions here. Some had lost their power, but some still had a trace of function. But it was these remaining mechanisms and restrictions that made this area with a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles one of the most dangerous places in the central continent. Only cultivators above the creation realm dared to step in. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew, and the weeds on the mountainside that were taller than a person bent down, revealing the figure of a young man. The young man had a handsome face that could make women's hearts beat and men jealous. At this moment, the corners of his mouth were slightly raised, and his pitch-black eyes were full of ridicule as he stared into the distance. His clothes were full of holes and dried blood stains. Just by looking at this, it was clear that this young man had experienced a fierce battle. But what was strange was that through the tattered clothes, the exposed skin of the young man was sparkling like jade, without the slightest trace of a wound. This young man was Chen Hao. 25 people at the peak of the advanced stage of the creation realm. They really think highly of me. Chen Hao's eyes flashed with a hint of fierceness as he thought to himself. Whoosh! Another gust of wind blew and Chen Hao's entire body instantly blended into the gust of wind, leaving no trace behind. Over there. Chase! Hiss hiss hiss, the moment the young man disappeared, several figures quickly appeared in the air. One of the young men's cultivation was obviously the weakest. He was only at the peak of the initial stage of the creation realm, but he was surrounded by a group of experts. It was obvious that he was the leader of the group. This young man was the chief disciple of the younger generation of the Limitless Demon Palace's Heartbroken Hall, Soul Fighter. Everyone, restrain your aura. Surrounded by the group, Soul Fighter flew quickly. His eyes shone brightly as he locked onto a faintly discernible aura in front of him. This young man is really bold. He doesn't take us seriously at all. He knows that we won't let him go, but he still dares to come here. Haha, isn't this what we want? The two celestial primes of the limitless celestial palace overestimated this young man. They took everyone away but left this young man behind. Do they really think that this young man is a human immortal? Don't let your guard down. You haven't seen how abnormal this young man is. One of the experts at the peak of the advanced stage of the creation realm said cautiously. This person was the disciple who had almost been pierced through the heart by Chen Hao. 2 months ago, even if this young man fought with me directly, I would have been seriously injured if I wanted to kill him. Now, he has been in seclusion in Dian City for more than a month. Although he is still at the half-step to the creation realm, I feel that his combat strength has definitely improved tremendously, and what? I feel that he has something to rely on. Is it possible? He is only so bold because of his concealment technique. Unfortunately, with the upper-grade spiritual treasure that my master gave me, it is impossible for him to escape my senses. Soul Fighter said. At this moment, Not only did he have the upper-grade spiritual treasure, Heavenly Eye, which could see through concealment techniques, he also had the upper-grade spiritual treasure, Mortal Dust, which could conceal one's aura. As for the other 25 people, they were all at the peak of the advanced stage of the creation realm. Therefore, he believed that as long as they concealed their auras, Chen Hao would never discover their existence. Even if they were within 100 miles of Chen Hao, it would not be a problem. Under the sharing of God's eye, everyone could also sense Chen Hao's aura. These abandoned palaces are the remains of the ancient sect that has existed for hundreds of thousands of years. Hiss. A cool breeze blew past, and Chen Hao's figure appeared on top of a mountain. He stared at the dilapidated palaces in front of him and said with a hint of excitement in his eyes. Celestial Venerable Han Mei and Celestial Venerable Yun Wei had suggested that Chen Hao come to the remains of the ancient sect. 2 months ago, when they were at the 160th supply station in Great Yen City, Chen Hao and the others were unable to resist the beast tide as the intensity of the beast tide increased. At the request of the 2 celestial venerables, he separated from the rest. Huyan Aobua and the others had gone to the Wuji Palace. Chen Hao stayed in the Alliance Cultivation Hall in Great Yen City and cultivated in seclusion for 1.5 months. After making sufficient preparations, he stepped out of Great Yen City. He came directly here. At this moment, Chen Hao's aura was still at the half-step to creation realm. Judging from his aura alone, he had not improved much compared to 2 months ago. However, if a cultivator below the man-god stage wanted to kill him, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 440. This is it. Once I get rid of these guys, it will be time for me to go to the Wuji Immortal Palace. Aren't they just some creation realm cultivators? Chen Hao promised the 2 celestial primes, but they didn't know that Chen Hao had only agreed temporarily. Who said that geniuses were destined to be lonely? He didn't believe in heresy, and he was confident that he could lead everyone to become stronger. Of course, the source of this confidence was his fusion with the old god. Before the fusion was completed, Chen Hao was afraid that he would have to listen to the 2 celestial primes' advice. Now, it was time for Chen Hao to prove himself. Chen Hao calmly landed on the huge platform in front of the dilapidated palace. This platform had a radius of 100 miles. Although it was bumpy and even covered with weeds, it still exuded the glory and atmosphere of the past. In the center was a golden palace that was incompatible with the ancient aura of the platform. Above the entrance of the palace, there was a huge plaque with the words, Alliance Ancient Sect Ruins No. 93, written on it. On the right side of the door, there was a huge stone tablet that introduced the situation in the ruins in detail. I hope this kid is qualified to enter. After Chen Hao stepped into the newly built palace, several figures came to the entrance of the palace as fast as lightning. However, they still hid their auras. Although there were countless opportunities to attack, they didn't dare to act rashly because they didn't have the confidence to kill him in one blow. Moreover, Chen Hao's boldness made them suspect that the 2 celestial primes deliberately let him mislead them. But now, as long as Chen Hao could enter the ancient sect ruins, they had nothing to worry about. Experts above the human celestial realm were absolutely unable to enter the ancient sect ruins No. 93. Only cultivators below the creation realm could enter. After entering, the space was filled with a large number of ancient beasts and array mechanisms. As long as one was strong enough, one could enter the various cultivation holy lands left behind by the ancient sections. These holy lands, after hundreds of thousands of years, could still be preserved, which was enough to prove their strength. Moreover, those with great luck and opportunity had a high chance of obtaining inherited magic treasures and unique skills. The ancient sect ruins No. 93 was discovered by the Alliance and was protected by the Alliance. It opened once a year at a fixed time. If one wanted to enter, they had to pay a sufficient fee, and their strength also had to meet the entry requirements. Once a cultivator entered, they would be blocked by the aura of the relic and lose all contact with the outside world. Whether he lived or died would depend on his own strength. Definitely. 2 months ago, his attack power was not much weaker than someone at the peak of the late stage of the Blessed Realm. He must be even stronger now, said the cultivator who had been severely injured by Qin Hao. Let's get ready. Once he goes in, we won't have any scruples. Mo Wuxian's face flashed with a trace of coldness and excitement as he said. Half-step to Blessed Realm. Little brother, did you make a mistake? Ruin Site 93 is only suitable for cultivators in the middle or later stage of the Blessed Realm to train. When Qin Hao stepped into the Alliance Palace, several Alliance staff members sensed Qin Hao's aura, and one of them said kindly. That's right, I want to come here. Please help me with the procedures. It seems like there's only an hour left to enter. Qin Hao said with a smile. You have to think carefully. If you can't pass the entry qualification test, the fee you paid will not be refunded. The old man reminded him again. Here are 5 million high-grade primal crystal stones. Qin Hao did not say anything else and directly handed his guardian token and a storage ring to the old man. All right. The old man shook his head and said. Everyone looked at Qin Hao and already thought of him as a hedonistic disciple of a large faction. However, beep. Qin Hao. When the old man took Qin Hao's guardian token and registered, he was surprised when he saw Qin Hao's information and looked at Qin Hao. What's wrong, senior? Qin Hao was slightly puzzled. No. Nothing. Welcome to our number 93 historical site. Your identity has been confirmed. You can enter for free. Brother Qin, please go in. Good luck. As the old man spoke, a door made of unknown material and covered with mysterious runes opened with a rumble. He smiled and made an inviting gesture to Qin Hao. Free. There's no need to test. Your guardian's information shows that your combat power is level 9. There's no need to test. Moreover, you are an elite guardian specially approved by the Alliance headquarters. In the future, any activity within the Alliance's sphere of influence will be free. The Alliance will provide you with all the best conditions. Ahem. Qin Hao looked at the old man who became unusually respectful in front of him strangely. Senior, what's going on? I seem to be just an ordinary level 4 guardian. What do you mean by level 9 combat power? What does elite guardian mean? Ha, this is a special situation. Only after being recommended by an expert in the Alliance and approved by the Alliance headquarters can you obtain this special honor. Wait a moment, I'll check for you. The old man said as he sent out a stream of energy into the token again. After a while, the old man raised his head and looked at Qin Hao. No wonder you didn't know. The Alliance headquarters approved it 4 hours ago. Brother Qin, you were recommended to the Alliance headquarters by Dian City. Level 9 combat power has nothing to do with one's realm. It's a level evaluation to prove one's ability to challenge someone of a higher realm. Level 9 means that you have the ability to challenge a genius disciple in the late stage of the manifestation realm. This is quite a high level. Anyone who reaches level 9 combat power will become an elite guardian of the Alliance and receive special care from the Alliance. This is because you might be the top expert in the entire boundless world in the future. Brother Qin, don't you know that someone recommended you? This. I know now. Thank you, senior. You're welcome. Please go in. Brother Qin, be careful. Once you go in, you can only come out after 3 months. Ancient beasts, mechanisms, restrictions, and cultivators who enter, you have to be careful. Understood. Senior Meng Yichong is really generous. This has helped me save 5 million high-grade primal crystal stones. In the future, it will be free in the Alliance. How much should I save? Although Qin Hao had stones of inestimable value, he did not exchange them for primal crystal stones. How could he be happy if it was free? Shaking his head, Qin Hao cast aside the distracting thoughts in his mind and looked at the long and narrow passage in front of him. This was a circular passageway that was covered in profound talisman markings and restrictions. At the end of the passageway, a milky white light flickered. Shockingly, it was a teleportation door. As soon as he stepped in, Chen Hao appeared in a hall that was constantly buzzing. Half-step to manifestation realm. TSK TSK. I wonder which great faction's monstrous genius is this. The moment he appeared, Chen Hao attracted the attention of many people who were waiting for the ruins to open. The ancient sect ruins opened on this day every year, and it would only open for a few minutes. Therefore, cultivators who wanted to enter the ruins could go through the alliance 2 days in advance and wait in this hall for the ruins to open. At this moment, there was only an hour before the ruins opened. Almost all the cultivators who wanted to enter the ruins had arrived, and there were as many as 500 people. Although it might be a hindrance to rope him in, it's not bad to be able to make friends with such a person. Immediately, many of the experts who had formed a pair began to move closer to Chen Hao. Everyone knew that to be qualified to enter at half-step to manifestation realm, one's combat strength and talent must be very high. In particular, Chen Hao's life aura was very young. Even if his current strength was slightly weaker, it would be good to be able to make friends with such a genius. Unfortunately, several olive branches extended, including beautiful women, were all rejected by Chen Hao with a smile. Seeing that Chen Hao had no intention of forming a group, the others did not try anymore. Chen Hao also sat down cross-legged and slowly closed his eyes, waiting for the group of idiots who thought they had hidden well to appear. Brother, I'm Xiang Tianshao, a disciple of Wuji Immortal Palace. How should I address you? Chen Hao did not expect that there would still be someone who did not give up and came up to him. The person who came was only at the initial stage of the manifestation realm, but he was very young. At best, he was about the same age as Chen Hao. He was definitely not older than 1 year old. Moreover, with Chen Hao's sharp soul perception, he could clearly feel that the young man's body contained a majestic and terrifying energy, which surprised Chen Hao slightly. Chen Hao. Sorry, I'm used to training by myself, Chen Hao had to say again. Me too. I wonder which force Brother Chen is from. When Xiang Tianshao heard Chen Hao's name, he thought for a moment. It was obvious that he had never heard of this name in his memory, which made him feel a little strange. How could he not know such a young monstrous genius with such combat strength and talent? I can barely be considered a disciple of Wuji Immortal Palace. After I leave here, I should be. Chen Hao said with a faint smile. Oh. There's such a thing. With Brother Chen's talent and combat strength, how can you only barely be considered a disciple? I don't like restrictions. I said this because my cultivation partners are all disciples of Wuji Immortal Palace. Chen Hao said. Amazing. I wonder what Brother Chen's cultivation partners are called. Maybe I know them. When I join Wuji Immortal Palace, you'll naturally know. We'll talk again if there's a chance. You'd better stay away from me so that you don't get into trouble. Chen Hao suddenly said through voice transmission. After he finished speaking, he closed his eyes and ignored Xiang Tianshao. Xiang Tianshao was slightly stunned. At that moment, ripples came from the teleportation door at the entrance of the hall, and figures suddenly appeared in front of everyone. What surprised everyone was that in a moment, 25 experts at the peak of the late stage of the manifestation realm and 1 at the peak of the initial stage of the manifestation realm entered. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.